We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call vote. We have TK Austin, Derek Hutchings.
Here.
Denny Wayne Robinson.
Here.
David Cranford.
Here.
Kyle Goff is here. We have a quorum. Director Markham, would you mind to lead us in a prayer?
Sure, I will. Thank you. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity we have to gather and conduct business for the county today. We pray for wisdom and knowledge as decisions are made here tonight. We pray for a cooperative spirit among everyone, and that most of all, that whatever decisions we make, we glorify you. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. We'll open the floor for approval of the minutes from the May 5th Budget Committee meeting.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion is approved and minutes are approved. Okay, we'll move on. We have Chief Jason Sparks here with us tonight from the Dole, City of Dole Fire Department. If you would, sir, you can come up to the podium. If you guys will remember, at the last meeting, we entertained a request from the City of Dole Fire Department for reimbursement at 75% of the total cost, which would be $3,711.86. Our OEM Director, Matt McBride, was here and answered some questions for us. We requested that Chief Sparks be here to answer some additional questions as we tabled the motion. So, Chief Sparks, if you would just give us a little bit of background, and then we'll open the floor for any questions from the committee, if that's okay.
Sure. So we had two separate repairs totaling a little, or right at $5,000. And that is, you know, in our budget, that is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 15–18% of our budget for the year. So we came asking for 70% of that back, which is consistent with what's been done for some other fire departments. I'm aware that some of you may have had questions about the City of Doyle, and I emailed you some documents about that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about that. I also know that maybe there were some questions about not getting prior approval, so it had to be fixed one way or the other from my standpoint. We have one engine. That engine had been all over this county that very week, backing up the rescue squad and some other fire departments. So, you know, it's not, as you all know, it's not one of those things where we can say we'll be there tomorrow when the pager goes off. So it had to be fixed one way or the other, so I had it fixed. And I was just asking for that 70% back to help prop up our budget to get us to the end of the fiscal year.
You all right, Mr. Chad?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, Jason.
Chief Sparks, would you give us, you emailed out a document. If I remember right, the stat was close to 80% of the calls you answer are outside the City of Dole city limits, right?
Yes, sir. So
Could you give us just a little rundown on how your department is mobilized throughout the county? And
sure.
Yeah.
So our department covers 14.59 square miles, and 89% of that is outside the City of Doyle. So, you know, when I say this, the truth is we're more of another county fire department. We just happen to fall under the City of Doyle. Most of what we cover is an area of White County. And so 11% of our response area is the city. 12% of our responses are inside the City of Doyle, with 78% being outside Doyle city limits. And then about 9% are outside White County for mutual aid to mostly Van Buren and Warren counties. So, and I mean, this is just when I started several years ago at our department, we were at about somewhere around 225. This year we're going to run 550 calls, so we've doubled. That's not going to get any better, there's no doubt about that. And I tell my guys all the time, we're going to do what's best for the person that needs help. So if that means going wherever the help is needed, and we've done that and we'll continue to do that, we don't care what district it's in or where it's at. If somebody needs help and we can provide that, we're going to go help. I guess I would also add that we do extrication, we do rope, we do swift water, so we're doing a lot of different things too, and we're partnering with the rescue squad to do that. We've opened our doors, and firefighters from other districts have codes to our building and can drive our apparatus, so we're doing all we can to help the citizens.
What are we doing about training on some of this apparatus for driving training for these guys? The reason I'm asking is some of these mechanical errors that we're getting, and I'm not saying it's yours, but some of the ones that we've had in there, we're kind of questioning, is the training adequate that's going through for some of these guys, or are they, you know, slamming the shifts and causing some of these issues or whatever? Are we setting up some kind of a guideline that we're following and checking back with?
So we do. I can only speak for my department.
Fair enough.
So what we do is, you know, there's a minimum standard there of this class, and this class, you know. And a lot of my drivers are, not all of them, but a lot of my drivers are career firefighters too. And so they get training where they work, but, you know, I won't let somebody drive our apparatus without having the proper classes and being trained and qualified to run the pump.
Are they getting PDO certified?
Not PDO certified, but they're taking intro to pumps and, you know, and the driving classes, and then we do a lot of in-house pump training too. As you know, PDO certified is a full 2 weeks of class.
It is,
and that's
it is.
sort of
It's hard.
difficult to do on a,
I didn't know if if you were offering it 2 days at a time or something like that, because I don't know, you know, there's always, volunteers seem to always find a way to get that done in a way, and so that's what I was kind of curious about, is there a way that we can start maybe coming up, because I know that there's going to be a need, if there's a way that we can get instructors to kind of break it up, but I don't know, you know, the school is a little different with that, and it's hard, and I know it's kind of a challenge, so just something I was just voicing out to see if there was a possibility, if you thought that.
we have done it before. We've broken it up, you know, into weeknights and weekends.
Right.
To get that 80 hours, so it's a possibility to do. If you can get people to commit to that much, then, you know, it's not a question of whether we can do it. And then the other thing I'll say is, in the background of my other job, we're working on something that falls in between an intro to pumps class and a PDO class that's 80 hours. So something that would be more volunteer friendly, but would get the meat and potatoes of a pump class.
Sure. That sounds good, because that's something that I think is needed right now. Because it's not just our area, there's others that need that as well.
No, I agree completely.
Okay.
Any questions?
I'm thinking that reimbursement for 75% of the pump repair, which is consistent with what we have been doing in the past. Of course, we're just looking at another $800, probably the $750 to $800 difference in the total one, but I think that's consistent to what this department, or this board has done in the past.
How much was that?
I give Chad that document last, you got it right there.
The pump basic equipment
35, 35, 22
was the pump repair.
in 14, 13 was the other repair.
Be 2,651.42. So it'd be about $1,060 difference if you did both of them versus just 75% of the pump repair, if I'm looking at that correctly, as far as which is which.
And if you're wondering, I know you mentioned it, so in this particular case, that pump has a mechanical seal, much like a swimming pool seal is. So it is going to wear out at a point in time. It's a replacement item, so it's, in our case, the mechanic says 5 to 6 years, and ours was 7.5 old, so it was time.
Are you referring to the EGR cooler repair? Is that what you're?
No,
referring
I'm
to?
talking about the pump repair.
His question is, or suggestion is to pull out the $1,400 repair bill for the coolant leak is his, did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, I just think that's consistent to what we have done in the past. I'm not gonna say I'm opposed to any of it, that's just what we've done in the
For
past.
lack of better, we don't want to open a Pandora's box of every repair item coming back
That's
up.
basically.
And so what we've done with the other pumps is we focused on that because that's what got it going. And so that's what we were looking at and, or what he was trying to say, and that's what I'm thinking. I know every little bit helps, I totally get that, but do you understand where we are with that? And
I absolutely do,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
So we could entertain a motion if someone.
I'll make a motion to approve the 75% of the pump repair with accordance with what we've done with some of these other ones, the things to do that in order to get that set up.
A motion on the floor?
I'll second it and get the discussion open. You had thoughts?
Yeah, who owns the truck? Was the truck purchased by the county? Was it?
It was actually purchased by a CDBG grant in 2017, so it's titled to the town of Doyle, but it was actually purchased by a CDBG grant that we worked on.
I think we're splitting hairs. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I feel like we should, to do 75% of all of it, in my opinion.
The motion on the floor would be $2,615.42 if we've got our numbers right, Chad.
2,651.41.
651, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not
That's what I said,
dyslexic.
that's what I wrote down. I didn't know if I did it backwards or not.
To $651.42. If it's of the total project, it would be $3,711.86.
Right.
So we do have a motion on the floor that we can call to vote. Do we want to proceed with the,
Unless somebody wants to make an amendment, we have
I
to.
I mean, I'm not afraid to do it, I'm just, my question with that is simply opening a Pandora's box off of what we did before, because we did talk about that would be the thing that we're considering. However, if you remember right, some of the other repairs were significantly more than what this one is.
Their repairs were a lot more, and it's from the repair shop. At least one of those was proven to be basically improper training, and we spent a whole lot more, and this is found repairs that need to be done ahead of the curve. They could have not done the proper repairs, and it could have cost us $15,000. Like in the other cases, I just feel like we're almost penalizing them for doing the right thing up front and being proactive and rewarding the ones for
All right, well,
neglect.
I'll gladly amend my motion to the full amount of $3711.86. And, because of the proactive on this, and, that if you'd like to do that.
I'll second that.
okay, we have any other discussion? We have an amended motion on the floor to raise that back up to 75% of the total project, $3,711.86. We ready to call to a vote?
Voting on the
Okay.
amendment.
Yeah, voting on the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We need to re-vote, correct?
Vote on the
That was
motion as
just the
amended.
vote. That was just the vote to amend. So now, motion to appropriate $3,711.86 for the repair. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Chief. Okay, we'll move on to budget amendments for fiscal year '25. We have three that are regarding the school system. First stays within committee regarding 21st century. Director Markham, would you give us a synopsis there?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first amendment that you see before you is the School Federal Projects Fund 142. This is Subfund 432. This is the 21st Century After School Program. It's a $5,000 amendment, really just correcting the budgeting code. The state requested that instead of using $499 other supplies and materials, we use $429 instructional materials and supplies. It's not changing any expenditures, just moving money around within the budget.
All right, you've heard the explanation. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on to general purpose school fund. We have two of those. Director Markham?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I will go ahead and note that all three of these amendments have been before the school board and were approved by the school board last Thursday night. So, amendment number one for the general purpose school fund is the summer learning program. So this is the summer school program. It's funding received through the state of Tennessee. It's a combination of state and federal funds that pays 100% of that program. It's a $410,090.31 amendment. It's appropriating funds for teachers, educational assistants, instructional supplies, associated benefits, school resource officers, administration, cafeteria personnel, so they can operate summer school there during the month of end of May and the month of June. Amendment number two is also for the summer school program, but it's a school transportation grant. So this is where we can run the buses during summer school. And again, this is a fully state-funded grant, $74,379.12, appropriated out to bus drivers, salaries and wages and benefits, maintenance and repair services, fuel for the buses, and then tires as well. And again, these have been before the school board and were approved. And ask that they be approved here tonight and sent to the county commission for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Markham. You've heard an explanation. I'd entertain a motion to approve. We can do both those together, unless you'd like to pull one out.
Make a motion to approve both.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Amendments are approved. Okay, we'll move on to discussion around fiscal year '26 budget. We've got some paperwork.
Okay, quite a bit. I don't want to give it all to you at one time and overwhelm you, so we can kind of look at this first, and then as we get into the specific topics, we can get a little bit more there, if that's okay, you guys. I'll kind of go over what you see here. Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is just for the general fund, so just keep that in mind as we're discussing this. It's not, we've heard from the highway fund, it doesn't include any of their stuff on this sheet. Doesn't include any school system information, any solid waste information, so it's just the general fund. As it stands right now with the current projected revenues at the certified tax rate, so you know that we previously discussed an estimated certified tax rate of $1.21 was my estimate, and our tax penny was estimated to go up to $97,000. If we do that same split, so essentially if we keep everything exactly the same, we adopt a certified tax rate, the split between the general purpose school fund and the general fund are the same, we would see roughly a $200,000 increase in property tax revenue for the general fund. So that's what I used in that projection, projected revenues of $18.2 million. Current projected expenditures, which is essentially everything that has been asked for, is 21.8 or almost $21.9 million. So that puts us at about a $3.7 million deficit. Again, that's throwing everything in the kitchen sink in there.
This is everything that they've asked for, like they've
In the general fund.
in the
yes.
general fund, everything
Yes,
that
sir.
they presented to us and asked us for.
Yes, sir, and honestly, on this list, it includes some other items, as I've gone through the budget myself, and, we look at items such as electricity, utilities, things like that, that they don't necessarily look at in their budget from their perspective. We've included those in here. So this is an all-encompassing number. I broke it up into salaries and benefits in the first section. The salary scale, so I put together a proposed salary scale. I'm not married to it by any stretch of the imagination. It was just kind of a shot at it. It was helpful in kind of looking at that, and I've got that for you guys to look at. But that would be about a $1.4 million increase in salaries and benefits by adopting that salary schedule. Medical insurance, we're anticipating about a 12% increase. I think that's high, but we've not received information from the state exactly on what that's going to be. We typically don't till the end of May, 1st of June for 26. So I'm assuming 12% if that's the case, and we do it at the current cost share that we do with the employees. That's $108,000 for medical insurance. If you recall, one of the requests was for free employee health insurance for employee-only coverage. I'm assuming that if you're giving somebody something for free, whether they necessarily need it or not, they're going to go take it so they can have secondary coverage or something like that. I may be wrong in that effect or that thought, but I would assume that our participation would increase quite a bit. So at 100% participation if we've got folks that are not currently on our insurance, assuming that they would take the free employee health insurance, that would be an additional $94,518 for that. To look at the TCRS improvements, that's the COLA. So they'd be adding the COLA to our retirees' benefits, and also the provision for commission credit for commissioners to be able to opt into the TCRS system. That would be roughly $668,000. That's over a 10-year period. That would then drop off. If you recall our discussions on that COLA, the way that works, they would increase our TCRS percentage for 10 years to account for that, to make up, and then it would be reduced, but they amortize that over a 10-year period. Currently, the way that that's set up right now, if somebody retires today from White County and they draw $100 a month as a pension from TCRS, and they live for another 40 years, at the end of that 40 years, they'll still be drawing $100 a month. There's no COLA increase throughout that time period. Going on down the list there, we've got the EMA, moving the EMA director from full-time to part-time. We've got a full-time Parks and Recreation director there. We've got a position in the county executive's office, 4 positions in EMS for shift positions, a clerical position, and then moving the assistant director to a full-time assistant director. So those are those 3 categories there. In the sheriff's department, the 4 patrol deputies that they requested, you see that, and then also changing one of their jailers out it's taking up a jailer spot to a front desk receptionist assistant. That's the cost associated with that. In the jail side, that would with maintenance assistant. So right now they have a maintenance supervisor and an assistant. This would be adding an additional assistant. So you'd have a maintenance supervisor and 2 assistants for the Justice Center. That's the cost there. And then also adding a training and sort commander. You see the cost there for that. Central maintenance, adding our 2 mechanic positions. And then also something that we've not talked about, but something that it occurred to me is when we move into our new building at the health department, currently right now, we have a contract with an individual that cleans the health department. That person will not be able to maintain the size of we're doubling the capacity of the health department. And so look at a janitor for that new building there at the health department.
So you'd be reducing the price of the service that we're doing, and it would be an additional 33,000 on top of that?
No, that's just the 33,000 for the salary. I didn't factor in, I should have factored in the cost there, but it's roughly about $10,000. So you'd be looking at about $23,000 increase.
Do we anticipate the building to be open this fiscal year?
We do not, but I felt like if we were going to make provisions for new positions, this year might be the year to at least get it on the radar. We might possibly need them at the end of fiscal year '26. I can't guarantee that, but I would imagine that it would probably be fiscal year '27, but I felt like that it was necessary to go ahead and put on there anyways, even though we wouldn't fill that position.
And under the EMA OEM request, is that taking into account is that an increase over?
That's the
fiscal year?
increase over the part-time. Yes, it is. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was my next question.
All right, well, let me ask you about the central maintenance, the two mechanics positions, we talked about their salaries. Is that adjusting the director's salary as well?
Yeah, so that's in the salary scale, and we can go into that if you guys want to jump into that portion
I was
right
just
now.
curious, because I know that was in there, that was something we talked about.
Yeah,
is we
yeah,
couldn't
so-
have them paid more than.
Why don't you finish your thing there? 'Cause
Yes.
That's a bunch of papers you got on that salary stuff, ain't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's a bunch of those big papers.
We'll put a check mark beside that.
Okay. Then we get into the non-salary section. Airport, the annual contribution request for the four governments was to increase that to $70,000. That's an additional $35,000. That would be an annual thing. We've got the animal shelter, addition of an office equipment. Some of these things are items that we're trying to standardize across the budget. So when you see addition of an office equipment line, that's in some cases there. We're trying to standardize that across all the departments. It's been kind of hit or miss who has certain funds for things and where they're able to take that out of. So this would be $2,500 for that, $1,500 for veterinary services, an increase to $10,000, and then an increase to the base drugs and supplies line to $5,000. Central maintenance, increase the vehicle equipment parts to $300,000, increase in tires and tubes to $70,000. Outside repair rebuild, 25. You can see all those are related to the actual, most of them are related to the increase in parts and supplies there. It does have the AC Freon machine that Doug had requested be included in his equipment. And we did an adjustment to the general equipment equipment line that he has for items there. Garage supplies, and also custodial supplies for central maintenance. Circuit court, a general base increase to office supplies of $1,000. Codes compliance, there's that office equipment line we're adding in, and then also the increase for Verizon Wireless for the second inspector position. County general or county buildings, we've got a general building maintenance increase to $250,000 total. An increase, that kind of goes back to increase in cost. Liability workman's comp insurance premiums, we don't have those back yet, but we're estimating on those. And then also other supplies and materials increase to a $10,000 base. County Commission, we will be adopting a new travel policy, or we have adopted, the Financial Management Committee's adopted a new travel policy effective 7/1/25. It goes to a per diem base rate and also changes the mileage rate. That's something that's not been changed in, it's way out of line. So we're going to a more standardized rate across for what most of the counties around us have. So we added an increase to travel there. You'll see that a few places, and so that's the reason for the travel increase as we go through here for some of those. County coroner, so autopsy, coroner, and death investigator expenses, we're increasing that to $132,980. That should carry us through for the full year, but it really depends on what happens. County Executive's Office, again, that travel increase that we talked about, and then the standardized office equipment line. EMA, we've got the UTV 4x4 that's on there, the lights and siren, camper top, and then also the other supplies and materials that was for the water and oil dry. EMS, we had 2 remounts requested and 1 new truck, so that would be 3 trucks. So that is for almost $800,000 there in those 3 items. The new truck that price does include the cot and loader. Increase in the base amount for general
I'm sorry, I
equipment.
got a question over that.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to make an assumption here that coincides with the extra employees.
Well, not necessarily, because we also talked about how that right now we have shifts that share trucks, and so they're getting run more often, and so kind of spreading out. More trucks means fewer miles on each individual truck, if that
Okay,
makes sense.
so regardless of whether the.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Increase in the base amount for general equipment. Right now, we've got $10,000 or $7,000 in that line. You can't buy anything, any kind of piece of equipment for EMS at $7,000. So this would increase that to $50,000, just like we did with the $7,000. If an item wasn't needed, then that money would just revert back to general fund. If it was needed, if we needed to replace a monitor or we needed to replace a cot, then that would allow us the funds to do that without having to go through a budget amendment process. Drugs and medical supplies, general increase there. We've seen diesel fuel increase. We would be increasing that up to $85,000 for the year for diesel fuel for EMS. In-service and staff development increase, travel increase, again, the travel policy, uniforms, communication line, medical director, and then building improvement cost, you can see there. Finance department, we're asking for an additional $1,000 in their advertising line for bid ad notices, so that'll take that up to $4,000 that we use that to publish our bid notices with Expositor. Fire rescue, the $50,000 to increase the total funding to $100,000 for the equipment line item administered through EMA that we've started this year. Liability workman's comp insurance, again, an estimate there of $11,200. The fit and flow test, electricity increase, the travel increase there, and then also gasoline increase to $5,000. Again, that's for fire and rescue. General sessions and human resources, we'd be adding the office equipment line to those offices. If you flip over to the next page, we've set up a department proposing we set up a separate line item in the Department for Information Technology Services, and we would run the website out of there. So this is that proposal to redo the county website, and also then, which is at the $40,000, but then a $16,000 recurring item there, and then also the managed IT services across the county. The jail lines, kitchen equipment line, right now we have $10,000 in kitchen equipment. Several of those larger pieces of equipment over there are old. And as the people in the purchasing committee have seen, anytime we buy any kind of food service equipment, it's pretty significant, the cost of those. And so we're asking to increase that to $50,000. So we would have the ability to replace something if it broke in the jail kitchen. Again, that is one of those items like with EMS where if it didn't get used, it'd roll back into fund balance. We are seeing an outside medical claims cost. That kind of is what it is. If we don't send people outside of the jail to hospital or doctor's offices for imaging or something like that, then those funds aren't used. But when the doctor says that they go, they have to go. It depends on, what happens to them. That also covers high-cost medications. So if you've got there's like HIV medications are not covered under our contract with QCHC like other regular medications are. So those are paid for separately. Medical services contract, this is for our QCHC, so this is for the doctor and the nurses that are on staff, and as well as the processing of all of our claims. They do all that. If they are outside, do go outside for medical costs, and then also cover the medications and stuff used inside the jail. That's a $16,000 increase. $12,000 increase for the food service contract that we have at the jail. Inmate clothing and supplies. So this is an increase from $15,000 to $20,000. This is anything related to the inmate that is purchased. So if it's a mattress, if it's clothing, if it's personal hygiene items that have to be purchased, that all comes out of that line, and we've seen an increase there. The travel policy increase is the next line, and then below that are your base increases, the base amounts in general equipment, and then office equipment, other supplies, materials, and then a general base increase to the uniform line. Judicial commissioners, it's an addition of that office equipment line. Same thing with juvenile services below that, as well as the travel increase. Next below that is the library. So you've got the carpet replacement in key areas that Kathy discussed with us, as well as a increase in the books and media line. So we've not increased the books and media line in, 10 years probably. And so we continue to see issues with the ability to purchase exactly what we need there and out of that line. And so this would be increasing that base to $20,000 for the year. Office supplies, a general increase base there, as well as a general increase in the furniture category. Right now, we've got $2,000 in there for shelving and chairs. Sometimes that's used, sometimes it's not. But this will be increasing that to $5,000. Travel increase for the policy, and then also other supplies, materials. Parks and Recreation, we're looking at mowing increase for the fiscal year, $5,500. So that would be increasing that line to $35,500. And then also adding a line for Ben Lomond Fiber Internet at the recreational park for our Wi-Fi. Register of Deeds is the increase in standardized office equipment line across all the departments. Sheriff's Department had asked for 6 law enforcement vehicles. I've got those budgeted at $87,500 each, and so that is based off of the Chevy Silverado cost. So we can get into how we want to figure that. I can tell you that, but that is up from the base of we figured for fiscal year 25 of $75,000. So it's also an additional 3 cars. So in the fiscal year 25 budget, we appropriated 3 cars at $75,000 a piece. That would be the car and then the upfitting as well. They've asked for 6 at $87,500 each, so it's $300,000 for that. Gasoline increase. Right now we have $115,000 in the Sheriff's Department line for gas. That has it worked at one time, but the past several years it's not worked, and we've had to move money into that line. So we're asking that to be increased to $200,000 for a more realistic projection for the Sheriff's Department, the use of the gasoline. Time management system upgrades they asked for, other supplies, materials, maintenance and repair services, office and computer equipment. If you recall, they had several computers that needed to be replaced due to the aging out there. They're asking to add back in the academy line to send folks to the academy. They've asked for additional jetpacks and smartphones for some of their detectives. Travel increase line to coincide with the travel policy. Law enforcement supplies line increase, uniforms, and then also that Tennessee Public Safety Network that they discussed with us. Veteran service line, that is adding that standardized office equipment. Waste pickup. This is our community service. The folks go around, pick waste up and tires and put up signs and those type of things. So we have an increase of $1,000 for gasoline in that line. And that takes us through everything. I will point out that if it was below $1,000, I didn't add it to the list. If it was something that was we were contractually obligated to, I did not add it to the list. It is included in the 21 million number above, but it's not on, I didn't detail it out because we were contractually obligated to that. So, and I had to draw the line somewhere as far as money. $1,000 is where I drew that at, so.
Chad,
But I'd be glad to provide you others.
if you mentioned it and I missed it, I'm sorry, but the longevity pay scale is gonna be about $186,000, was that?
That is, I'm glad you pointed that out. In my salary scale number up there above, that is looking at the salary scale, the longevity bonus, and then also, there's some funds allocated in there based off the salary scale that I put together that you can see related to if somebody has, secondary, education, if we wanna give somebody, if they've got a certificate or, associate's or bachelor's degree or something like that, you might wanna look into that. There's some counties around us that do that, and so there's also funding in that number for that. I was just trying to look at ways of differentiating, through a salary schedule, ways, to differentiate, because there's all sorts of ways to do it, without us getting into required employee evaluations. And that was kind of how I was trying to look at that. Because if we do an employee evaluation schedule, then we're gonna have to everybody's gonna have to do that. There's gonna have to be some pretty significant, make sure everybody's supporting those evaluations the way that they should.
So Chad, come alongside me here. Our estimated penny will be $97,393.
That's correct, and I've got I've got that here for you too. I handed this out
Yeah.
or 2 weeks ago or something, but that way you can just see it again to see the change in our tax.
We are $3,680,000 short.
Correct, yes, sir.
That equals almost 38 pennies if you round up.
So I have a question.
That would
Sorry.
Yes.
that would put our tax rate at $1.59. If we go,
It would.
if we funded everything on this sheet.
It would. It doesn't take into account the other funds that we need to discuss through the tax penny either, though. So I would.
This general fund.
This is just a
Yeah.
general fund, yes, sir.
That gives us an idea of where we're at. Go ahead. Sorry, Commissioner Hudson.
Chad, on your opening statement, you said the general fund increase and something about the school. Is there, with the projected expenditures increase, are we keeping the money from our property taxes, are we keeping that dollar amount the same as we did last year for the school, or is that giving them an increase based on the current projected expenditures?
So right now, we've not solidified a revenue projection to them. I kind of wanted to see what the committee's thoughts were. We do need to address the general purpose school fund from a county perspective. The TISA formula that the General Assembly passed that went to a per pupil revenue stream from the state. There was an increase in funding at the initial onset, but we're seeing some signs that maybe that the ability for TISA to keep up like BEP did with growth is not there. So in the coming year, we're seeing almost a flat TISA increase, whereas with BEP, we would typically have seen a a pretty good size increase. So what that does is it shifts that burden back to the locals to make up. So, long story short, in my opinion, we need to fund some pennies to the school system.
What did out of property tax money last year, what was our fund for the school?
Let me find that for you. Current property taxes was $3,445,994.
And did you use that same dollar amount in the current
No.
projected expenditures, or is that giving an increase in that?
No, that would be them seeing the 30% increase of, so they're not getting a 30% increase, don't. They, in the tax rate of 205, the county general fund gets 70%, the general purpose school fund gets 30%. And so that is taking the $1.21 estimated certified tax rate, and 70% would give the general fund $203,000, and the school system would be in 30% of that, so that would be,
35 cents, 36, 35.4. At 121.
so it almost flat. I mean, at 35 cents, that's 3,408,000, and I've got 3,445,000, so. But if we did,
Be between 35 and 36.
But like your just general fund right now, in general terms, Kyle said we're at 121. If we fund the 3,680,000, all the ask is getting us to
159.
159. So if you're still doing
that, yeah, that's what I was saying. That gets us even in the general fund, but we've not addressed, with this pay schedule, there's an additional $200,000 for the highway department, would be required expenditures in the highway department. There's additional $200,000 required expenditure in the solid waste department. That doesn't address debt service, we've discussed, and then also the school system. Yes, sir. So that tax rate would just get the general fund even.
Yeah, but that would also be a 50, what was it, 121 to what, 50?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
159.
159, so they would get 30% of that spread as well by your calculation?
No,
No,
sir.
no, we're not.
That's the.
We're not there yet, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was just to get that.
Okay.
So we'd have to take, what, 30% off of that, and then
Well, you don't
If
have to
we-
do
it would be,
that.
yeah, they're right.
What, well, that's another can of worms, I guess.
So I'll be glad to go over the salary scale that I've got put together, or if y'all want to go through some of the non-salary line items, or,
I think we take the top of the salaries.
I think the salaries is going to be the biggest thing.
okay.
I mean.
Because we were pulling, when we've been talking discussion, we were pulling different people out for different things and giving specific raises instead of just saying everybody gets a 10% or 20%
Exactly.
raise. So I think we need to dive into that. And while he's pulling papers, I need to grab the register.
Would you guys, would you be okay with
Take 5
5
Take
minutes?
5 minute break, yeah.
Entertain a motion?
Make
Do we need a motion?
No.
No.
Just
we don't need a
recess.
motion. meeting back to order. And Ted, if you just want to give us a rundown of what we're looking at, and then we can
Sure. So,
dive into it.
so on the first big sheet that you have that's not stapled, this is, again, a salary schedule that I've put together. Not tied to, like I said, not married to any of this, but what it did help me do personally is look at all the different positions to see how some positions were possibly out of line with other similar positions. And of course, you know, there's a big difference between driving a truck for solid waste department and working in the county clerk's office, but we just kind of looking at a big picture of similarities between positions as far as required abilities, whether it be experience is important, and so on and so forth. So what this does do is it sets a part-time rate base of $11 an hour, and so $11 an hour would be the lowest that we would pay on any basis. You can see in group 2 there, I've got our convenience center workers, UCHRA assistant, and then the waste pickup attendants there at their rates. Group 3, I won't bore you through going through all these, but I've tried to separate them out. Groups 1 through 5 are just, they start at the rate that they're at. Group 6 through 15, you'll see the 0 to 4 and 5 plus experience. My thought process in that was that we're looking at experience, and that's not experience with White County. We compensate that through our longevity pay. This would be experience, for example, if we had a paramedic that wanted to come to White County from a neighboring county. They were a great paramedic, we really wanted them, and they had 10 years of experience. Instead of starting them out at what a 0-year paramedic would make with no longevity with White County, we would be able to move them to the 5+ years. Just as an enticement to be able to make a difference for those people maybe that do want to come here that have prior experience. This would have to be something we would set up to where the person would have to document that it was relevant experience, to the job that they're coming for. But that's the difference in the 0, 4, and 5 plus.
Would that distinction of relevant experience, would that be made by HR?
I think it would be, if it wasn't directly identifiable, it would be made by finance and HR, yeah.
But the department heads would normally make that call.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if Mike can prove to us that somebody's been a paramedic for 10 years, then it just is what it is, But if it was some kind of gray area, then we probably would need to have something set up to where there was a final decision made by somebody
Well, it's
else.
not like it's a huge jump, I mean.
No, it's not.
That's
It's
the-
not at all.
It's a dollar.
Yeah.
But I felt like that it gave something,
Sure.
So that's where you get groups 13, 14, and 15 would be considered salaried positions. And so that's why you see the yearly amount there. And presently on our hourly positions, several of those are almost paid on a salaried basis, but we really need to, they work different hours, so some offices are open longer than other offices, but maybe they all make the same rate, yearly rate, but on an hourly basis, they're different. And so looking at it this way, we would be looking at it more from an hourly basis. So if somebody works 40 hours a week versus 37 and a half hours a week, there would be a compensation difference there for that, whereas right now, there's not. That really just comes into play in your offices in the courthouse and some of the justice center areas. The second sheet that you have is kind of that salary scale spelled out. So you can see the position on the left-hand side, you see the current year hourly rate and yearly base, and then the fiscal year 26 hourly rate and base using this salary scale, and you see the increase. There was a couple that we run into that were decreases. And I think it probably shows maybe where we had some, some things out of line in that in that instance, I would assume that we would freeze those people's hourly rate. We wouldn't cut their hourly rate, but they would still be eligible for longevity and so on and so forth. But what this salary schedule really helped me do is kind of think through, especially some of our supervisors and even janitors. We had some custodians at different places making totally different hourly rates, that were, and so this would allow us to correct for those items. Again, I am not married to this, where people are, or where positions are at in this scale. I'm not, the rates, the dollar amounts or anything, but I felt like this gave us a jumping off point.
I think it's a good, very good little platform to get started on. Of course, obviously, adjustments can be made, but I think you did a great job with this. I'm curious, though, in moving from here to this sheet, did you figure in each position, whether they was here 5 more years or not?
No, sir. No, sir. So instead of going through that individually, I assumed that everybody was here at the 5+.
Okay, so you're assuming the.
Yeah, so
So we're assuming the max? Okay,
Yes.
Okay, that's,
Yeah.
okay, good. Even though that won't be the case, but.
No, that was just for simplicity. I did it that way.
No, that's great, as long as we know where we're at.
Chad, on group 14, those are all directors with the exception of one there. We have 2 positions that would fall under the codes officer category, right?
So that would be, and I thank you for pointing that out. I probably should have changed the title of that to like codes officer director or something, because in the budget, I am, in those expenditures, I'm not putting that second codes officer at that rate. They would be at a lower rate.
Okay.
And they're not on here, but when I went back and added them in.
So for that, what official job title, I mean, is it?
Oh, no, they are on here, I'm sorry. Group 10, that would be Group 10, Building Inspector Assistant.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Thank you.
And then the clerical position would be in Group 6 for codes. If you look at some of these positions, if you look at the difference in the hourly rates or the overall increases, some of them are not significant, some of them are pretty significant. I can get you actually the average if you would like that. That would probably have been helpful.
Yeah, like I was just, right off the top, I saw the county executive assistant. I mean, that's a 5% raise about, and then the human resources, the next one is less than that. That's about a 2.5% or 3% raise. And it kind of varies different.
What I tried to look at about overall between solid waste, the general fund, and the highway fund, about $1.5 million. I tried to hit that, which is about 15% overall with benefits, and so that's where I tried to end up. And so if you add all 3 of those together in there, it comes up to about, it's like 1.4 or something.
1.478.
Yeah, is that on there?
You're talking about the original sheet.
Okay.
And Chad, another question. In the EMS budget, he had requested an assistant or I believe, to make a shift lead on each shift. Did you differentiate between?
I did I selected the
I see the assistant position.
full-time assistant. I did not do a shift supervisor as well. I think my understanding from him was that he was good.
He
just
needed one or
something
the
more,
other.
yeah.
Right.
So overall, including the solid waste and highway department, your average increase in salary would be $5,446 across all positions.
5,000.
445. That's average.
And with benefits, you said that was
15.57%. You add on top of that. Yeah, so with benefits, that's $1,506,515. I figured, if we were given a 15% raise across the board like we've done historically, that's about the dollar amount that we would come up to. We just wouldn't have, we just wouldn't have realigned our wages. So I tried to use that same dollar amount and just realign the wages. And I will say, I mean, this is totally from me. I have not discussed this with any of the department heads or anything like that. I kind of wanted to get, I needed to understand kind of where you guys were at, as far as increase to, before we kind of got into the weeds with them on things.
Well, let's start with just the methodology of the grouping. Does the committee have thoughts on just the premise of the work that Chad's done for us
No,
here?
I think it's fantastic, but,
He's done, obviously, done a ton of work. I'm almost under the theory that we've done, I know what he's saying, I get what he's done at the 1.5 million, but I almost feel like we've done the price adjustments that are needed for those groups, and they should be pulled out and then evaluate. The average is 15%, but just right out the top, the executive assistant here is going from $21.74 to $23. They're getting basically $2,500, which is less than half of the average, and there's several of those, as you go down through there, are well under that average. Do we need, I don't know, was that in line, or does everybody need a 15% increase? Because I mean, I don't know, I'm asking.
I mean, everybody would love it, I think it'd be great, but that would do more compression, and that's what we were trying to separate. That's why some of them are different, but I do see that, but I'm trying to, get rid of the compression where.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, is if we're given that spread on the ones that need it, then if we come back on the others, then the spread's not there anymore. Custodians are going from 12.05 to 14 in the proposal. So they're getting,
That's 14%.
Some of those that were way underpaid, like the convenience workers, they're 881 to 12.
So if we take it by groups, it's not going to be perfectly balanced.
No.
right? And if, I think what you're saying is that we take it a little bit more by the individual and flat across the board, then I don't know. The group premise would almost have to be set aside, right?
Well,
Is that what?
I'm not sure. I think what you're trying to say is.
It's not enough for some, right?
Let's throw out the 15% you said, whether it's 10 or 15, whatever. We come up with a base rate of raise that everyone gets, and then if they fall into one of these categories,
Then
it's-
it's separated,
it's above, is that kind of?
yeah.
What do you do on these then?
So you got this, so the very first one I see is on page 2 at the bottom, the sheriff custodian. So why would they be going from 16 to 14?
They're not.
They won't really be, but
No, no. They wouldn't be, they would be froze at where they're at now.
Because you're trying to get the sheriff's custodian in line with our other custodians at
Yes.
14.
Right. I mean, we
Or
can bring
that's
them
the-
all up to 16, but then I think once you do that, it pushes everybody else
Then-
up as well.
Yeah,
yeah, the ones that show a negative will
be
not,
froze. Yeah, they're not gonna get a reduction, but you're trying to get everybody
but
else
they're not
up
gonna
to-
get a raise,
Yeah,
But they qualify for longevity.
but they qualify for longevity.
And I don't know how long the sheriff custodian's been there, but that's
You know, Chad, of course, when I looked at this, I agreed. There was just some discrepancies in similar tasks throughout the county in different departments making different amounts.
another, and this may just be my ignorance, but I want to ask it. What's to say a department head can't say, like, for instance, the sheriff saying that everybody's a jail major and jumping their pay up to that rate?
It's in our,
Do we have a certain amount of breakdown?
the salary agreement that he signs.
Okay, that's,
Every year.
I just want to make sure that, I just looked at that and I just automatically thought, well, hey,
Wait, wait,
make everybody jump up and everybody's fine, you're all right.
All right, TK's locked out. You got any volunteers to get him, or? You care?
you can't get off in the weeds on every single individual employee. I totally get that.
Well, can we not? I mean, I don't think we need to do that tonight, but, you know, if you can get a pretty rough guess right here. If he's looking at 1.5 million, as an average raise, or an average of 15%, that means technically half the people are getting more than 15%, half the people get lower. So you take half of that number, which would be about 7,000 or 750,000. You can get real close that you're going to be adding 650,000 to that budget. If you do a base raise of everybody at 15%, and then you're gonna be looking at 2 million in raises.
No, we need more paper, yeah.
That's the big thing we're looking at right now.
This is really what we're looking at, the staple sheet.
So DK, just to give you a quick synopsis, this sheet right here is a pay scale that I put together, not married to it at all. This is totally me. Nobody, haven't consulted any department heads or anything. I was just trying to get us a starting point. And then the stapled sheet is what individual positions would look like with this salary schedule. And the changes in that is the far right column, the increase that they would see.
Do we have what our increase would be?
Yes, so your total,
It shows.
about $1.5 million
Yeah.
Okay.
for salaries and
Right
wages.
there's the salaries and wages for just the general is 1.5 based on all of these numbers that he's got.
Okay.
And does he have this?
Yes. I mean, look at your circuit court assistant, I mean, they're getting 64-cent raise, $1,200 a year, $100 a month. Where the clerk assistant's getting 4 times that, like that.
The clerk's assistant.
The clerk assistant, yeah, there's 3 positions for a clerk assistant on that front page.
Okay.
Going from 16, it's our clerk assistant's going from 16 to 19, which is 4,000, but then the circuit court assistant is getting 70 cents, which is $1,200.
Well, I think that's
So
more
where you,
getting equalizing, is it not? I mean, circuit court assistant and clerk
So it's getting
assistant.
them back to it's getting
I mean,
them both
what-
to the same pay is the.
I mean, are they not, is that not
well,
about the same job?
so here's okay, this goes back to what I was saying about the salary and hourly. So right now, the circuit court assistant and the clerk assistant make the same dollar amount, but they work different hours, different number of hours a week.
Okay.
So on an hourly basis, they don't make the same rates,
Okay.
but they do on a yearly basis because we've always just based it on the yearly basis.
And one of them's working more hours to get that
Correct.
same pay, okay?
Correct. And so that's why your current year hourly difference, your current year hourly rates are different, and this would be moving them to the same hourly rate. So one of them would be getting,
More money. 'cause they're
Yeah.
working more hours.
yes.
Okay,
Which makes sense.
yeah. What'd we do on a raise last year? Was it 5% last year and 3% the year before?
It's been 5% the past 2 years.
Haven't we only done 3%?
Was it 3 last year and 5 the 2 before? That's right. It's
Okay, 3
5,
last
5, and
year,
3.
5,
There we
5,
go.
3.
I knew we did 5 2 years in a row.
You know, Chad, that we mainly look at, you've got more stuff in your head than we've got on the paper. Yeah. Like them hours things, I mean, that might be something good for us to have on this note, that how many hours per week a department
I've got that. I just hid it so to make the
sheet work.
sheet bigger or the font bigger. But yeah, I can do that if you want me to get that for you.
I think that clarifies a lot. But that's a bold move. I think it's what needs to be done. Because when you put it into your computer for payroll, you have different hourly wages, and I guess.
Well, presently, we don't. So on some positions we do, but like, if you think about courthouse positions, we don't. We have, we take the annual salary divided by 26, and that's what we pay each time, unless we have a reason to deduct a day, and then we could have to go in and make that calculation. But you go into this route, everybody would have an hourly rate, and they would turn in their hours, and it would work that way. Now, they turn in their hours, but then we have to do the math to calculate it
Yeah.
backwards currently.
So what about page 2? Which is primarily the sheriff's department. What is this, what are these do these numbers fall in line? I know you sent some stuff out to us.
So I've got, and I don't know how deep you want to get here, but I've got pay scales from other counties. And most of them are
Oh, no, we know what's that.
most of them are sheriff's department and EMS. We've got the city of Sparta because
He specifically,
they specifically, asked that. And I think you've got that there with you, don't you?
is that, I printed it, there was 3 pages with what you sent, and one of them was so small I couldn't see it.
Oh, that's something Mike did.
Okay. I had a DeKalb County,
I've got it here.
okay.
The one that you don't want these. So here's the DeKalb counties.
And DeKalb and the city of Sparta, you said you had it too?
I do have it. I need to go print it. 'Cause I didn't print the city of Sparta's, but this is, I've also got Cannon, Fentress, and Woodford. Fentress County actually has everybody besides just sheriff and EMS on theirs.
Do you have those printed?
Yep.
Okay. This is the
This
other
is Fentress County, and this Fentress County has like all of their positions on there. And they have a starting pay rate, and it doesn't list it on there, but it's additional, I think it's 20 cents a year, is what she told me, so each year of service, they get an additional 20 cents an hour. And then Cannon and Warren is just sheriff and EMS is all I've got on them. They're kind of like us, as in, that's what I found, is most places don't have a standard across the county. Well, of these folks that I sent. They're all 81 Act County, so. I know their finance director.
in the city of Sparta. You said that one was not printed?
I do not, but I will go get that, because I meant to, and I just didn't do it.
So,
And on,
I know that's way here, you getting off from the Sunday. That's not a bad way to do your longevity.
is that for your tier,
Per year,
Do
pay
it,
raise?
add 20 cents an hour for every year, have you do your base pay. I don't know which is easier for you to write a check for, but.
well, so we have, for EMS, we actually have a pay, they're the only people that we got a pay scale for, really, honestly, like a true pay scale, and I've got it right here for you. But it's based on years of service. And, where they get so much per year based on the years of service. Now, the thing you get into with this pay scale is it takes into, if they have had employment somewhere else, then that's verifiable, then they can receive half that credit back here. So like if that, in that, my example of that person moving from Putnam County or here, if they were 10 years in Putnam County, they would come here, they'd start here with 5 years of service.
Gotcha.
And I'm gonna go get that city part.
So just, the biggest line item is patrol deputies. So he is saying patrol deputies at $20.41 to $22, which is about an 8% increase. Warren County deputy is $22.13 with 6 months is $21.23, and deputy on probation is $20.72.
And you got Cannon County's is 0 to 2 years is $20.60 for a certified deputy, SRO, or court officer. And then it goes up each, like 2 to 5, and then 5 to 10. Chief deputy.
Is Fentress County, am I missing Fentress County's Sheriff's Department?
I am too.
Maybe they don't have it.
I think I saw deputy on there.
I got it right here. Or was it not in there?
I seen,
Patrol officer, non-certified.
Oh, here's a school resource,
It's in the
community
bottom
service.
section on the front page.
certified is $17.90. School resources, 16. That's it. Fentress County. DeKalb County is patrol deputies, first year is $20.84. If they've been there for 3 years, they're $22.63. His tier system is by the year, the first when they hire in. But the sheriff was primarily comparing to the city of Sparta.
Here's this Sparta. There's this,
I don't
Annual
think so,
salary.
or Cannon, honestly, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
and this is for all this across the entire city, so it says even their electric department on it.
I mean, in my opinion, Cannon County is a lot smaller than us, and Fentress is kind of too far away.
Cannon County competes a lot with Rutherford County. They are a lot smaller, but
But they got,
they've got a big pool to Rutherford County. To anyone's point, I mean, if I was developing a salary schedule, my first inclination was to do years of service and positions and, do it that way. But I kind of thought y'all were leaning more toward the longevity bonus, and so that's where I tried to make a differentiation that way.
But we're already kind of doing that in EMS.
We are, and, you know, and we would move them to this new salary schedule, and based on the numbers I run, you know, we would just have a handful maybe about 3 that had been there a significant amount of time to make much of a difference as far as having to freeze their pay rate.
Already above. Interesting. I didn't know. Reason I was saying, not much needing looking at them.
Oh, Ventures. Yeah.
They're larger than they are too.
I looked at the city of Sparta, their police officer is 41 to 50. They're topping out. Oh, that would be their patrol deputy, would that be their police officer, that considered?
I would think so.
So they're topping out at 50, and if we go to 22 on a patrol deputy, that puts them to 49, so
That's reasonable.
that's right at the top out pay.
And that also doesn't count in longevity.
No, it does not.
I keep going back to that because that could be the difference that they make doing that if they're here. I really think, you know, that longevity is going to make a huge difference with a lot of these guys. It did, you know, a one-time check at the end of the year is a really sweet little bonus. It's going to make a big difference. So I understand some of this stuff is going to be like, well, I didn't get that big a pay raise on the front end, but if they've been here for a while, they're going to get a huge bump
Yeah.
every year.
And Chad, that was figured at $100 a year. Is that how you had that figured out?
That's correct, and I've got that math. Yeah, it was $100 a year, and then $50 for part-time.
You hand that out.
No. I'm not gonna be an octopus.
And I think we've got
Find one
I
in.
think on there, Dean Wayne, I've got the median, like what, the median,
Yeah.
is it average person?
No, I've got a copy if you want, we just didn't want to hand you out too many papers.
So, I mean, looking at the big items, you got patrol deputies on here, that whole section of those going from $20.41 to $22 is in line. That's an 8%, that's about 8% raise. And that is in line with the surrounding counties.
Pretty close.
What was Warren County's? Deputy 1 year is $22.13, deputy for 6 months is $21.23, and probation is $20, so at $22, that's basically what Warren County's paying you with 1 year experience.
That one can go.
DeKalb County patrol deputy, we would fall in between 2 and 3 years with them.
I don't know, it may not even be pertinent, but do we have 5 and 6 year patrol deputies?
No, there's not, I mean, I'm sure there are some, but there's not a lot. Most of them haven't been with us that long. But there are, I mean, obviously there are some. Well, there's probably some that, if we look at it experience-wise,
Okay.
and not, you know, but, because if you look back at that longevity pay, the people that have been with us, I think the average was like $400 is what they would get. So, I mean, you're looking, the average person's been here 4 years. That's not just the sheriff's department, it's across the board, but. So, I mean, it might be, you want to look at increasing that per year, you know, to increase the longevity bonus, you know, that $100 would just, I just use that as, because it was an easy calculation as far as, if you go to 200, you just double it.
What is it? That's Sparta. Yeah. City of Sparta.
To see them moved. To one of these groups here.
And, you know, whenever I was looking at this, like the patrol deputies, I would have liked to have increased that a little bit more, but then when I did that, it started pushing
The sergeants and the
everything
detectives
else,
and
you
the-
know, and,
Yeah.
and again, I was trying to hit that 1.5 number, so.
So do we think that the deputy patrol, this is standard patrol deputy, does that seem to be in line, do we think?
I do want to, you know, the sheriff's department had asked for $1 more per hour than the
Then the
city of Sparta. And so, you know, that's, because I had annual pay on them, I kind of tried to make that calculation, but, so I mean, in some of those instances, that's not hitting that mark. But again, if you know, and especially group in not just the sheriff's department employees, but if you start looking at countywide at maybe positions that would fall into a group around similar to a deputy, then it's hard to, you know, you start pushing everything. But, you know, we can move some of these out and to different groups.
Like as in the patrol deputy?
Yeah, so like if you wanted to move patrol deputy up a group, we could do that. I mean, if we even want to use this format, you know, or do we want to go to one where we do away with the longevity bonus and we just build in their time from the get-go, like we do with EMS currently? You know, and one thing that we did with EMS that is so like, we have top out. So at like EMT basic and EMT advanced, they top out after 2 years of service because we want to push them to go to paramedic school, to go to critical care paramedic school. And so, you know, they don't get those increases yearly unless they're a critical care paramedic.
Yeah.
Okay, if, you know, I sat there just a minute ago and suggested the 20 cent per year.
You know, it
But
says
how
19
does
here.
that look
It says 20.
budgeting wise, and then when we start doing salary agreements and such as that, as opposed to doing a one-time check bonus? Is it budgeted the same? Is that gonna be, I guess what I'm asking is, will that start being considered salary, and then later on can start being moved around inside a budget? Whereas if we do a one-time check, is that budgeted under salary at the beginning of the year?
So under I think I understand what you're saying. So the comptroller has a specific code for longevity pay. And so if we were doing a bonus, we would put whatever was attributable to longevity pay, that longevity bonus in the longevity pay line, and it would be completely separate from the hourly rate. So yes, so like if we budgeted for Sasha had a deputy clerk, and we budgeted for that person at 10 years, and that person then left, and she hired somebody with 0 years of experience, she would have money in that line item, but she would not be able to, that would be the thing, she would not be able to get off the salaries, the salary schedule.
So we're probably better off holding to a longevity line item instead of
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be done either way. I mean, it's definitely easier to calculate, than it is to,
a longevity is.
well, yeah, because at that point, you're having to determine, a different rate for every single person, pretty much, so.
Yeah.
But I'm open either way,
Because
honestly.
I was looking at DeKalb counties with their patrol DeKalb County Sheriff's Department has a tier program, and it's based on 1 year of service to 6 years of service. So every one of those are different, where all of our patrol deputies are all at the same rate. But if you differentiate them, then you gotta do the same for the sergeants and the detectives, because their years of service, or you're gonna have a patrol deputy making as much as the detective, because he's
Been there a long time.
been there a long time.
And I guess technically, if you had a patrol deputy that stayed a patrol deputy forever, by the time you add in their longevity pay, they might be making more than somebody that was a new detective. But
That's where I'm at with it, is if they stay there and they do that, that's their difference, is how loyal they are to White County.
Is the sheriff's department or emergency services in general, maybe you can include EMS in this too, are they just too complicated to be within the group format? Is there a group format and then an emergency services pay scale that's separate? Because I love the grouping, but I would agree, Derek brought it up, if you look at Group 8, I do think you've got some things that are out of balance according to risk of the job, you might say. But if you move up, let's just say you start moving all these up, and then your patrol sergeant moves to Group 10, and then your patrol detective moves up, and then you just keep pushing them back. You've got a bottleneck where your command staff is making the same amount as there's not gonna be a lot of gap. Especially if the patrol deputy's working overtime, they're gonna be making more than their supervisor.
You can't figure the overtime.
Right, but I'm just, in theory, they're only gonna be,
Overtime's irrelevant to.
well, they're
what- I
even,
mean,
without overtime, they would only be $1 off their supervisor. Is it possible to have a group format like this, and then we pull out the departments that are complex and work on those separately?
City of Sparta, like their range, how are they, like there's $4 difference in one of them and $2 another difference in the other, what are they basing that range on?
Here's another.
Oh, I'm
It figures at $20 and $24.
I'm assuming it's, maybe that's how they build in like their years of service or something, so they may have.
They just don't fit perfectly into it.
And that's kind of how I looked at it. At one time, I thought, 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and kind of had it built out like that. And I'm assuming that's what it is.
You've got two, secretary and secretary. And it's like, what am I gonna get shot at? Just be the secretary. I think for time's sake tonight, I think we do need to determine if we want to go down the grouping route, even if this isn't perfect, the way the committee would like it.
And if you have concerns about like where people are in this, I mean, that's obviously, I mean, that's why I printed it out. So like if we want to move those people up in groups, if you want to stay with this model, I mean, that's obviously something that we can, certainly do. So, I mean, we can even add groups in, delete groups, consolidate groups, Again, I'm not married to this at all, so that's why I wanted some feedback.
I remember last year, there was a bottleneck, and he said he can't get, jailers. So, like everybody got a 3% increase last year, then the jailers got $1. And that created a bottleneck, and there wasn't enough. The complaint then is there's not enough separation between a jailer and a patrol deputy, I think. Or
Right.
something.
All right, well, between a jailer and this jailer sergeant.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And I guess if we pulled them out into a different pay scale, how would we do it differently?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, would you still do it based on, would you go to a straight years of service thing there and not do longevity, or?
I like the longevity.
Yeah, I do. And I think if you're gonna do it, you would wanna do it across the board. Regardless if anybody's pulled out and looked at separately or not.
So if we look at longevity and we had that round number of $100 in our head, should we make that more? Is that the theory? Is the $100 enough to make a spread?
I think that's right in line with a lot of places, like, a lot. So, I'd hate to go any more than that.
Well, the $100 an hour is a year. $100 a year. Yeah, don't ask them to put that in there, that's a couple $100,000. 186 actually, but say 200,000, so you can imagine if every $50 you go up, that's another 100,000.
Do we know if any of these other counties that we've looked at the pay scale, if they have a longevity pay? And then does the city have a longevity pay?
Not that I'm aware of on any of
I'm
these.
aware of. I'm telling you guys, that's where it's at.
I've never heard that discussed about the city.
So you look at the police sergeant is 2124 to 2350, which is 52,000 a year. And then you look at the city of Sparta, they start out at 46 and go to 55. So there again, you're on a patrol sergeant is on the higher end of the city of Sparta as well. Starting out with the county as a patrol sergeant already pays more than starting out as a patrol sergeant with the city, $5,000 a year. Then we give them an increase, it's gonna be just under the top out. And if you throw in 10 years of service at $100 a year,
It's a nice little $1,000 bump at the end of the year.
yeah, that gets them from 52.5 to 53.5, which is close to top out. investigators, would that be a detective, that would be our equivalent?
I assume so.
So we're proposing that in detective to be at 53 and their investigator, we're on the low side of that. Police investigators is 51 to 61, and we're from 47 to 53. That's on the low side.
And I, you know, I move these around quite a bit, and, again, I was trying to get to the 1.5 number, but
Right.
if we're not, I mean, if we're willing to go higher than that, then we can move them around for sure. Or if we need to go lower than that, we can move some of them down, you know, and leave some places, so.
Curious if we could move like the patrol deputy to group 9 and then, you know, move that up patrol sergeant to group 10.
I can do that math right now.
And why can't the patrol sergeant and patrol detective both be in group 10?
They can, I mean, right now, they make the same, this exact same rate, so, I mean, they can. I was trying to make a difference there, just,
I'm just trying to separate, you know, the patrol deputy from, like Kyle brought up, you know, some of the secretaries. you
all right,
know.
so so if we move, so are you thinking move all the sheriff and jail people up?
Just
Category?
Just the patrol deputies and the patrol sergeant. Move the patrol sergeant to group 10, which puts him with the patrol detective. And then the patrol deputy to group 9.
Okay,
So move the sergeant up to 10 and move the deputy from 8 to 9.
okay,
That's what I was thinking.
gotcha.
Which would put, once again, the detective and the sergeant on the same level. And what separates them is longevity.
But, and then if you're doing, so basically,
I know, I thought about that too.
the deputies are in,
There.
Sergeant,
but
Do one thing at a time.
you have, you've got the patrol deputies on the one sheet at $22 an hour, and you have them in the group 8. So you've already got them maxed out at the 5 years of service, or you're saying some of them will be less than 5 years and they'd actually be 21 and not 22?
right, yeah.
Yeah.
And
He
again,
just
I
put
mean,
it on there as the top out.
Yeah.
It's 22.
Okay.
I'd be
And
happy
so-
to move these people around wherever, that's why I wanted you guys to see this, so you can do
Right,
that. Because I don't want to be the one that makes, you know, I don't need to make this decision in a silo. So if I do that, that's going to make our patrol deputy go to, with 5 years of service, to 23.5, and your patrol sergeant to
David, were you saying the sergeant and the detective would be at 24, both of them would be at 24? And that with 5 years of service, that some of them will be at 25?
Yeah.
Then what about the lieutenant? That's gonna give them this, there's one patrol lieutenant, so that's gonna have the lieutenant the same pay as the sergeant and the detectives.
Yeah, he's still working. So we got patrol detective is 23 and 24, and then, yeah, it's 24 and 25, so they're just a dollar more. But that's,
But then the lieutenant is over the sergeant, right? And the sergeant will be making as much as the lieutenant?
if he's got 5+ years. But see, and I mean, yeah, once he gets 5+ years, be making the same, but once the lieutenant should have 5+, so he'll be $1 more per hour. You said I went from 24 to 25 on a
The sergeants,
patrol lieutenant,
yeah.
and then on the sergeant was 2250 to 2350.
I'm sorry, the sergeant was what?
I'm looking at this, okay, so that's a different, I'm looking at this group.
Oh, okay.
That's where I'm throwing off, I'm being thrown off.
Yeah, the patrol sergeant is 22 to 2350.
Yeah. And I'm saying,
Okay, I see what you're
and
doing.
then patrol detective is up there.
So you're basically saying add $1 to all of them down through there?
Basically, up to, what I'm trying to do is combine the patrol sergeant and the patrol detective to be the same. And then we're moving, goodness gracious.
What is a patrol detective?
Just a detective that's on the, it's just how I separated it out from the jail side versus the sheriff's side. It's not a, it's just a detective.
Okay.
I'm adding one group to 9 and one group to 10, is what I was trying to do. But I might have to move one to 11.
Lieutenant would almost have to go to 12.
And then he's up there with your captain then.
Then you, yeah. Then there
Yeah, I mean,
go.
you essentially got to move
You
everybody up.
gotta move every, you can't, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then to Denny Wade's point, then your captain's on the same level with your chief deputy, if you keep going.
So you need to move him up.
Yeah. And we're close right now.
To me, the difference is the way this is looking, I agree with what David is saying. All of them need to be bumped a group, and that leaves your odd man of your lieutenant. Your lieutenant would be making potentially the same as your detective and your sergeants that's been there. But then you've got your patrol captain and your majors are making, almost lieutenant kind of needs to be pulled out and just say he's almost a separate deal. It'd be like, give him $1 separation between.
Why don't we give them 50 cent separation on that? And, because we've done that on a couple other ones.
And still be less than the captain and the major, but different than the sergeants and the detectives. He's the odd man
Yeah.
that falls in the crack. Does that make sense, Chad?
I think so.
If you bump all the tiers, then he's the only one that really doesn't have to differentiate between.
I'm just trying to create some separation. I know that's a medial amount, but just enough to be something.
Okay, so yeah, well, essentially, if we're going $1 an hour on everybody,
Well, the sergeants would be 50 cents, right? You're gonna pay them the same as the detective? Is that within reason?
That's what I was thinking.
This will make you go blind.
It does. It gets confusing quick. And we haven't even started on EMS yet.
There's a difference between the sergeant and investigator on the city side. Investigator gets paid.
Yeah.
So the school resource officer is listed on here,
What's the,
but the
give me an example of somebody.
school pays that
No, they're a
position.
county employee.
200.
That confused me last year.
Yeah. The grant comes to us now to pay for that.
Oh, man. 1236.
The grant didn't go to the school system. The school system paid for it. And then when the state started paying for it, they give the money to the counties and not the school systems. Because it wasn't across the board. It was our school system that was paying for it. That wasn't happening across the state.
Same for
But
children.
then the grant come to us and the school system was reimbursing us, if you will, and they stopped reimbursing us. They got to keep that money
Yeah.
in their fund that they didn't, that they were giving to us, now they're not having to. Right.
That's a pretty good catch right there.
The grant benefited the school system, even though it wasn't, yeah, I know, yeah, you know.
Yeah, it benefited the school system, not the county.
Here it is. 16.
The whole idea was, we had been forward thinking and having SROs in our schools.
I like that.
And a lot of
The
them weren't.
assessor.
Yeah.
And so
He
that,
had two positions.
that was the whole thought process. I think if we do $1 an hour on, we've got on 34
But even
employees and they work 43 hours a week.
Yeah.
52 weeks, that's 2236 a person. 34.
Yeah, I'm kinda like that.
76
Is that
times
smart?
0.1. It's gonna be about $90,000 to do that.
anyway, so we don't have anybody here that's like a shelter director. There's no position. That animal control officer's part of it.
Which sheet are you looking at?
Just any of them, both.
Yeah, we've been bouncing off of both.
So that's about 90,000 to make that SL move.
Okay.
So
90,000.
that's a dollar an hour raise from start what, in group 9?
8, starting in 8.
Group 8?
Well, not starting, I didn't take it as starting with the whole group. I just moved.
You moved 8 to 9, 9 to 10.
No, I moved the
The sheriff,
deputies.
the deputies and the sergeant and the detectives, right, Chad?
Yeah, I just moved them up a group, so I still left like
Yeah.
everybody else that was in group 8.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant, I'm sorry. Well, see, I'd like to look at moving the EMTs, like an AMT.
Well, let's not get ahead of the cart, let's get on, you're jumping to a whole nother.
No, I'm just saying, it's just like they,
Can we
they're
just,
carrying a license and doing stuff and everything, and that's where I'm,
like, just before we spend a lot of time doing this, is this the method that we want to go with? We're spending a lot of time on the group project if this is not what we're going to use.
I like it, I do.
Thoughts?
I like
TK,
it.
Denny Wayne?
Yeah, I'm liking it.
I mean, we can tweak it. I just don't want to go, I don't want to
We
spend.
just keep adding this number, just keep in mind, we keep
Yeah,
adding this
yeah.
number.
See, I'm good with whatever as long as we fund it.
Yeah,
If y'all are willing to fund it, I'm willing to go with
that's the key thing.
any way you want to go.
I don't want to sit here and
But now-
hash this
but
out
now,
and
if
have
we're
no
gonna-
votes on the,
If we're going to do all this and then not fund it, I'm not for any of this.
What say our commissioners listening?
You got input? We're asking input from the audience.
It's a tax increase is what it is. Flat out, it's a tax increase.
So we'll
Are
be
y'all
adding,
willing to vote for it?
so if we move the sheriff's department, solely the sheriff's department, Chad's proposal is giving them a raise, and we're saying change that even more, which is another 90 cents, which is a penny. In a nutshell, that's a penny. Giving them all another $1. proposal's $22, $23.50, and $24, so it'd be $23, $24.50, and $25.
So that put them ahead of all the surrounding counties?
No, put us in line with,
Well, in
Yeah,
some,
put it ahead.
ahead of, in some, but
in some, it would put them ahead,
Like
but,
Butler County's probably still behind the eight ball.
well, yeah.
but where we're really gonna make a difference is longevity pay.
So the patrol day, and he wanted to be comparable to the city of Sparta. That was his big thing or he said he wanted $1 more an hour than the city of Sparta. Your police officer for the city, they have a range of 41 to 50, and at $22 an hour is 49. So you're $1,000 less.
So that's a penny more than Chad's proposal? How many pennies more was his proposal?
Well, it's hard to answer that question. Labor-wise, you're looking at 15 cents. And then when you add another one, you're looking at 16 cents. And that does include longevity, correct? This 148, or does it not?
No, so that's,
So the longevity
yeah,
is,
it does, I'm sorry.
it does, okay, I thought it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're looking at 16 cents.
So our general guy's 59 cents, I mean, $1.59. This would add on top of that. Add on.
No, I'm sorry, say that one more time.
With their earlier budget, general fund, we're looking at, we funded everything, that got us up to.
Okay, no, yeah, that's right, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's not above that. That was $1.59 if we funded everything as is.
Okay.
Just keep in mind though, like
Yeah.
Chad warned us earlier, that's not accounting for the other funds.
Yeah.
So that's
We have other
that's a
issues.
bare
But
minimum. I mean, that
Out
was
of
just
that, at $1.21, at what we're thinking it's gonna be, just labor numbers, we're talking about just labor numbers, is gonna be, so what did I say, 16 cents?
16 cents.
So that's $1.37.
It'd be good to fix it now and not just keep coming back.
But that's there's nothing else.
That doesn't include, what does that not include?
Well, that's just pay, that don't include anything else.
Any of the non-pay items.
Any of, yeah.
So his.
But if you total it all together, it'd be 3.7 million that we're short.
3.8 million, basically, well,
It's, yeah.
3,680,000 is what he's got on the sheet right now, just general fund.
But still,
And if we done the bump that we're talking about for the deputies, it'd be another 90,000, so it'd be 3 million.
But we, keep in mind, we haven't cut
770.
anything.
But there's no- yeah,
That's
that's-
all.
Everybody's
all
getting
that.
everything they
That's
asked
all
for.
inside.
Sheriff's also wanting colas and Coca-Colas and. It's-
I think, I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole. I just don't want to spend this much time on the grouping method if we're not.
Well, I go back.
Even if we reduce the dollar amount even, is this method, I mean, Chad put a lot of work into it and he'll have to tweak it even more.
I mean, if y'all just want to throw it out, nobody's gonna hurt my.
Right, and that's what I'm
Please don't
trying to-
think- Please don't think that.
I like it myself.
It's a tier system of, it's a
It's
sort of
just
a
hard
tier
to
system.
hard to put certain ones in certain positions, and I think we need to consider looking at that. Maybe grouping different ones in different positions, and then that's setting up, because that's something I am looking at. It was hard for me to see a patrol deputy in the same thing as, you know.
The secretary.
Yeah.
I think we need to work hard to keep it below 160. So, if it don't work out, it doesn't work out.
What say you, Mr. Brew?
So you're good in the 150 range?
See,
I'd tell you, the 150 range is very doable. I mean, there's gonna be a little bit of tweaking here on a couple of things, but that's very doable in this
I
budget,
can get us there.
yeah.
Well, like you said, we've not cut, like there
I
was,
guess where we're going.
yeah. I like the group system. Should we focus, to finish the night out, should we focus on who we want to change in the group tiers for the next session to come back to see how that changes the numbers? Did we cut anything, are we looking at cutting anything right now?
I just assumed, and maybe I'm wrong, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, in the non-salary category, there would be some items
That we're gonna cut?
that we would cut if we went by line. And I feel
Yeah.
like it wouldn't take us nearly as much time. And that gives us a little bit more wiggle room on what we want to do
Yeah.
up top. I could be wrong, and if we want to fund it all, that's, it's TK's point earlier.
Yeah.
We've got to figure out how to do it, but
Well, I'm in agreement that we leave.
if we like the group method, Chad can work with us on how to
Yeah,
tweak it.
I hope y'all do cut some of this stuff, I mean, some of that stuff's ridiculous.
oh no, it's gotta be,
Yeah,
I agree.
So we could spend,
we're just giving you worst case scenario.
Right, right.
we can,
So we wanna go through these 4 sheets of paper and just hit the absolute cuts that we know, just the initial.
I think we
version.
could have 2 categories, the cut and the keep to next meeting.
Yeah.
Category.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick
Yeah,
question
go.
back on the grouping? The experience thing, is that something that we want to do or not? Or do you like the 0 to 4
Yes.
and 5 plus, or? do you-
Yes.
Yes,
I do.
yes, I like that.
Should we, not to get crazy, but should we add a 0 to 4 and add a third?
Yeah, I mean, we could, because that's how I originally started, was like a 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 15 or 14, I mean,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed for a third tier with maybe a 50 cent on the third tier instead of $1. Is that,
What time range, you look at 10 years, 5 years, I mean, another 5 years for 10?
yeah,
Okay.
like he said, I mean,
I'd love to see it.
50 cents or $1. I mean, 50 cents. I mean, if you've been here for 5 years and you've been here for 10 years, I mean, you know the job, I mean,
But
but,
that's also where longevity's gonna pick up that.
yeah, but,
I'm telling you.
but 10 years is, but if you've been here for 10 years and you're gonna get $1,000, you've been here for 11, you're gonna get 1,100.
Well,
So,
I think
I mean,
where that comes into play too is you're pulling experience from your past, even if you weren't a county employee. And I think that could help us.
yeah, but if I'm saying
And
on
then
the,
you're taken care of, you've been with White County. I think we're
That's
getting both.
I think it kinda does it.
you good with, so you want just a 2 tier or a third tier?
I like a third tier.
A third tier, but what's the ratio, 50 more cents or $1 an hour? I mean, I'm saying there should be a difference, but I'm thinking 50 cents and not $1.
I'm doing 50 cents, but what I go back to the budgeting, the salary, you're getting into maintenance of effort with the salary, with the sheriff. How,
If they don't fall in that tier, when they leave, if somebody leaves that has 10 years of service and they're in that higher pay rate and you come in with somebody new, they have to go to a little pay rate.
but it don't, no.
It doesn't affect
In
his,
our world, the way we're thinking, yes.
but he has that money.
But he has that money. When I signed that.
Well, the sheriff's, I'm sorry, not the sheriff's department, but the DeKalb County Sheriff told me their tier system, which is almost what we're talking about. He said that he has to break that down at budget time every year. And if he has a patrol deputy that's been here for 6 years that leaves and he replaces him, he knows that money's less. And he has to take that $5 an hour out.
He agrees to do that. We have to pay the same amount of salary we did the year before,
We have to fund the same, we have to fund positions,
not the
so
same,
it's not dollar.
it's not dollars, just positions. So we can lower the pay rate, just the positions.
Just the positions,
Okay, I learned
on
something.
that one. No, not all.
When you say on that one, do you mean the sheriff's department?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
So that theory works then.
that theory works. Okay.
No, I said
According
no.
to Chad, right? Okay.
And I mean, is somebody else gonna fall in that category on, when you're looking at paying, I mean, by far, he's the biggest employer
In general.
in general. So that's where we're gonna see it. If somebody else falls in that tier category and they lose an employee, we're not gonna see a huge swing in maintenance of effort or pay or whatever with any other category other than his categories.
Okay.
So third tier at 50 cents above 10 years and above.
Let me just,
So you're gonna do it 10,
Yeah, 10 year.
And just add 50 cents down to there.
and that's gonna be
50 cents.
50.
50 cents.
I say 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 10 plus.
Or 0 to 4, 5 to 9. So your fifth anniversary and
Alright, so
10th
the-
anniversary.
Yeah.
I was gonna pull this up anyway. It says,
The county legislative body is required by law to fund authorized expenses fixed by law for the operation of the sheriff's office, including the salary of the sheriff's deputies. We hold that the provision requires the county legislative body to fully fund the salaries of all deputies as set by the circuit and criminal court pursuant to. The current legislative body may not adopt a budget that reduces below current levels the salaries and number of employees in the sheriff's office without the sheriff's consent.
So it is salaries.
The current level of, but we are setting current level of salaries based on years of service. Can that not be argued?
Yeah, it can be argued.
Will you win?
So I think here's where we come into play is what we actually pay that person
Well, they have to meet the requirements in order,
for
I
me
mean,
to write the
if
check.
you're at 0 time and you make $21 an hour, somebody new comes in, they're gonna make $21 an hour. I mean, that's what we've got to fund, is
Okay,
it not?
I'm not against this, what we're saying. What I'm getting at is you take 3 years, 4 years down the road. Who's going to remember it's going to be sitting in our chairs.
Well, if we just do a bonus.
Well,
at the end
I
of the
guess
year.
if that's the case, then we don't need to do the differentiation on experience at all then.
Well, that's true too. So I kind of, well,
Kind of like that.
maybe I'm looking too deep into the weeds on this.
No, 'cause we've had to deal with stuff like that.
That's why I'm thinking that way, because we've had to deal
I
with
mean-
stuff before. I mean,
If we never had a detective or a sergeant leave and we couldn't replace them with a detective, I guess a patrol deputy got promoted and then a new patrol deputy got replaced? Is that how that would, is that what they typically do? Somebody gets promoted and then they get replaced?
You know, and maybe that's something that HR watches or something. I don't know. I don't know who.
Say that again?
If you've got a deputy with 5 years' experience, moves up to detective, and you hire a new deputy in with less than 5, you know, there's that difference. You know, how do we, who keep,
That's where I was going back to TK's, I think TK said it. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, I'm the one that's writing, well, I'm not, we're the one that's writing the paycheck, and so if they don't meet the criteria to be at the 10-plus year rate, then we're gonna pay them at the 0 to 5 year rate,
okay.
regardless of how much money we got budgeted in the budget.
Okay, so it's gonna be you or HR or me or somebody that's watching that.
Yeah, we've got to, they'll have to document to us that, I mean, it's gonna be a gonna be an undertaking.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. When,
And
You need more
so,
than-
at the same point, so is the longevity pay too, you know, because,
okay. But now, if you're comfortable with it, and y'all are comfortable with it, I mean, I'm just making sure everybody knows the facts. I'm good. Third category, drive on, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. If you look at this one that shows the overall
Yep.
shortage, if you look, we've been focusing very heavily on those top, well, really the first one. But if you look at those first four, there's the county general categories. Down below that, you'll see the additional positions and some other things. Why don't we start here and hit those? We're still in the salary category, but we're no longer talking about increases, we're talking about added personnel.
So the
Go through
full-time,
line by line. So let's start with EMA. We'll hold off on the whole conversation around TCRS and all that. Let's go EMA, moving the director to part-time, from part-time to full-time.
so Chad, what is the current director pay, part-time pay?
15,000 something. 15,800, I think.
That's what I was gonna say, 16.
And then the 15, or the 59,890 is, that would make that new position 65,000, or 75,000, I mean. Is that right?
That would make that position
64,800.
66,560,
Oh, 66,560, yeah,
66,560.
according to the pay schedule.
In the, on the bigger sheet in group 13, it's listed as 64,4. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
the five plus.
Yeah, I see.
66,560.
I apologize.
And that falls in line with EMA,
That's group 13.
EMS, that would be under an EMS director.
So I'm assuming your 59,000 increase includes all the,
Yeah, 15.57.
okay. Okay. And
Well-
insurance and.
Would that director not need to be in group 14? Instead of group 13? There's certificates that your EMA director has to carry versus your codes officer and your EMS director. I mean, is there a difference in that I mean,
Yeah, we can do that.
I mean, logically, that's,
they're a director, and that's the only director in group 13. I feel like that director position would be group 14.
Okay.
Anybody opposed that?
No.
What would that new number be?
Two more
Adding
$1,000.
It'd be
$2,000,
$2,000,
2,100, 2,090?
6650 to 60,
2312
2312.
plus 59,890, 62,201.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
62,201. The 59,890 would go to 62,201.
We're on agreement, we need that position.
This survives to the next
That
round.
survives.
Okay, full-time Parks and Recreation Director.
survives.
Any word back on the grant?
And just so you know, that's not included in the grant revenue's not included in my revenue number, but just
Okay.
FYI.
So how would this fit into our grouping over here?
That's right, I don't have it in I just based it off the 50,000, which I think was what the grant was, if I'm thinking correctly on that, but I might be incorrect.
So we were looking at
You've got it at
10.
60. What's the dollar on that?
2404,
$24.04.
so I put it in group 11
Group 11.
or group 10, whichever one.
I'm kind of good with that.
Yeah, I'm doing 10, 11 on there.
Yeah.
Survives.
Survives.
An
That
additional,
would be Group 11.
an additional office staff in the county executive department.
I think it survives.
Is it 45,000?
Does that, we need to add that to a category, a group? Chad, did you catch the
That-
PNR was gonna be a group?
Yeah.
11?
Yeah, and that county executive, is being a group 6. I think is what I'd figured that on, but
Okay.
that way that we can take it wherever it needs to go.
But this is more of an entry level, not the,
Well, I don't know, I mean,
Is the vision here more of like a reception, like a answering telephone, returning calls?
Yes. Yes,
Possibly grant work.
possibly some grant work.
and that's different.
Or free up the other position for
grant
grant work,
work.
right? Okay, so survives.
Yeah.
EMS, we have 3 now.
Going down through there, I'll just say this, the clerical position, I feel like needs to go to the next round.
Okay, because if I remember right, he said either get a clerical position or,
Well, yes, you're right, but I think Chad may have already accounted for, right, Chad? I mean, there was like, please do this or this. I think you've already taken that into account, right?
yeah, my understanding was the clerical position was separate from the assistant director to full-time, to be full-time, or have leads for the shift leads.
The volume works.
You got 5 watching.
Okay.
Shift
Commissioner
leads.
Rogers was watching a while ago. He,
Sorry, Chad.
Shift, I think, I was looking at it as either shift leads or moving the assistant to full-time.
Yes. Yeah.
And dollar wise, would that be about the same?
No, shift lead, well, it depends on how much premium you gave them for a shift lead, but, I mean, because moving the part-time, moving the assistant to full-time is adding an employee, actually.
Okay, so shift
Because
leads would be-
he works a truck right now.
So clerical position, would, do any objection to making it to the next round?
no.
And then, do we want to look at assistant EMS director or shift leads? Which did he prefer? Did he have a,
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think that he would want the assistant director.
What about the 4 positions?
That would help with overtime and that call-in times, because he was going to run them like from, I'm going to say,
He was gonna run a swing shift. or
12 to
something.
12 or something, you know what I mean?
Well, that
Like,
was,
Yeah,
to cover, so he
I
had a
think it
shift.
survives
from a
too.
liability standpoint, that's something we
yeah,
need to look
and
at.
of course,
with our
Because we've
call
got-
volume, that is.
You've got
increased.
employees that's putting
Yeah, extra hours. in.
20 some odd hours in a shift.
So it sounds like leave both, or
All 3.
All 3 of those.
Yeah.
4 patrol deputies.
So we're doing all the EMS.
You know,
to the next round.
to the
Yeah.
next round. 4 patrol deputies. I mean, he's having a hard time filling shifts as it is, it seems like, or filling positions. He doesn't have several open positions.
I think so, but I'll be afraid to go on record saying that.
And I think some of his thought, is there three per shift right now? And this would make 4. And that's just like if people are on, if everybody's there, you know what I mean? So if somebody's out or something, then that's, you gotta cover those and stuff, so.
I say both of those survive to the next round.
Now, the reception, didn't he have to do away with that to make it a jailer?
No, we're currently using, they took a jail corrections officer position and made it into a receptionist, and now they want that jail corrections officer position back
Got
and
it.
have a separate person for the jail, or for the receptionist.
This is,
Thoughts?
Well, we're not doing good at cutting anything.
No.
Well, my theory with the sheriff and the jail was either the patrol deputies or the maintenance assistant and the training sort commander. It's either one or the other. I don't want to, I mean, everybody wants things and I get it, but if he wants to add another assistant or whatever, then that's fine, or a deputy, that was the way I was looking at it. I don't think we could do all of it, but.
So on the sheriff's side, leave the reception assistant for now?
Sure.
Okay,
Pass it
jail maintenance assistant.
My thoughts are
how
for
many
looking.
how many maintenance positions do they actually have?
At 2 right now.
They have 2, okay.
I mean, I don't think there is as big a need as what central maintenance needs, a mechanic, and that's where I'm thinking we need.
I'm
to-
for cutting the
Cutting the maintenance assistant.
maintenance.
What about
Training,
the,
training sort commander.
That's a new position?
That is, yes, sir.
My thoughts shoot from the hip here. If we were seriously looking at adding 4 more deputies, I don't think we need it. But if we're not seriously looking at the 4 more positions, then maybe don't, something.
I believe the 4 deputies would be more in line than those 2 positions.
Okay.
we're gonna cut both of those?
Central maintenance, 2 mechanics.
So, well,
My thought is next round, but we need to talk about that. I think we need to start looking at maybe expanding their role. Maybe do away with some of these fire truck repairs or something that we're having to deal with.
Well, that was Doug had talked about, like doing diesel and,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he was talking about dividing it.
yeah, putting somebody in the other shop.
And that's like one of those positions was somebody that would just do brakes and oil changes.
Yeah, the second, like, he asked for 1 position. He said he asked for 1 certified mechanic. We said, could you use 2? And he's like, well, I sure could use 2. And then my theory was, why not add an oil changer and a brake man that's not a certified mechanic? You can pay him less an hour and take some of that non-certified mechanic work off that can be done by a mechanic.
Let's take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Both-
But my
Both
question,
positions.
my question on that is, Chad, where's he falling in the group pay? Because we thought he was way underpaid for
Who, Doug?
Doug,
He would be in group 14.
central maintenance director, so.
There you go.
And just so you know, the 2 mechanic positions I have there are based on the certified, group 11 mechanic, central maintenance mechanic. So, I mean, I can work with Doug and talk about separating those out if we just want to do a brake and.
Okay.
And. oil
Yeah, I
guy
think
or
that
something.
one person doesn't need to be a certified.
And then
That
we
was the
can-
theory, and, because he was just asking for one, we were
Yeah.
kind of,
I can work with him on like where that would put that person, because that'd be a new
Yeah.
line, so.
okay.
So that would divide one into a certified mechanic and then.
One and one.
Let's just say one miscellaneous for now.
One.
Okay,
General
Health Department janitorial staff.
I mean, we don't have much, well, we're gonna budget for it, but we're not gonna use it this year, and it's not something that we can't, I think it stays, I think we gotta keep it on there.
Well, we didn't do a whole lot of
We didn't.
hacking.
You didn't do much. Okay, it is 10 after 8. Do we want to move into some non-salary categories, or do we want to start scheduling a meeting for?
I mean, can we get some, can we look at something, we zip through some of this stuff
Yeah,
and just real
let's-
quick, just flip through these pages and get him something to,
Yeah, so we'll start with the airport.
Next round.
This is,
Next.
yeah. Let's go to animal control, office equipment line. Probably,
And that's something that I added just in several places to try to standardize. I mean, I
It's a very
can
minimal
adjust
amount.
that.
That's a very minimal amount.
okay,
though.
vet services,
I mean, those are all small amounts, I just think we,
okay.
Move on.
Central maintenance, vehicle repairs and or vehicle equipment
Well,
parts.
the thing, these next one,
Yeah.
2, 3,
Yeah.
the next three they're just
We don't
gonna be
have
what
a-
they
They're
are.
baked in.
Yeah.
And that's
So,
like, and then the ones
uh,
after it really kind of are too.
Increase in base equipment,
If we just
oil
need to go-
increase.
all the central maintenance
Now,
has to
the,
stay, even on page 2.
Now, the Freon machine
Yeah,
necessarily
it's-
wouldn't have to stay, but if you get a machine in there and you start, that makes it eligible to vacuum or suck out the Freon that's already in there, and you can reuse.
Cut down the cost.
Yeah.
okay, so garage supplies, custodial supplies, so circuit court, office supplies, I think that's baked in, codes compliance, office equipment, same.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so Verizon wireless increase,
Yeah, nothing changes. County, I
County-
mean, EMA, I mean, really, we gotta jump to
Yeah.
EMA.
county buildings,
Yeah.
travel, coroner, county executive, okay.
The UTV.
EMA,
Yeah, everything, EMA.
UTV, 28,000.
I mean, I think that's too high.
Yes.
I think 28,000 is too much for that, in my opinion.
I mean, is there like a gov deals opportunity here? We buy something?
There is, I had a conversation just this week with a group. We may be able to get one of those donated.
Okay,
I'm not gonna say completely cut it out, but
We can pass it
28,000
on.
is too much.
We can pass it on and go, keep moving. What about the
camper top,
lights, sirens, and camper top?
yeah.
I say X that. I mean, we gotta cut somewhere with that. That's,
Cut
and
the
then, but the
camper.
other supplies and stuff, we definitely need to keep that in there, because that's the bottled water and
Yeah,
Okay, so EMS,
2
two
remounts.
remounts.
that's in
Listen,
there.
we better keep that stuff in there because
Yeah.
we're two years behind, Chad,
Yes.
almost.
Yeah, and we just received word today, we bid 2 remounts in the fall, like around September. And he's gonna be able to get to one of them this coming September.
Yeah,
Okay,
we-
so-
we need to keep that rolling.
Yeah, new truck.
I'd keep that rolling too, because I don't think we're gonna get them.
Increase in equipment, drug
Diesel
and medical
fuel,
can't do anything
supplies,
You
about
can't do
that.
anything with any of
diesel
those.
fuel,
Uniforms,
in
that's
service,
only $2,000.
travel, uniforms,
And that's only
it is.
2,000.
Communication equipment,
I mean, I don't see how you can change any of that.
medical director costs, building improvement cost. Finance, increase for bid ad
Can't do
notices,
anything about that.
fire and rescue. It's
Equipment
an
funding
increase,
increase.
yeah, it's a doubling from 50,000 to one, or, yeah, I'm sorry, from 50,000 to 100,000.
Yeah,
I think that can probably,
Could we cut that in half? Make it 75?
Make it 25 increase.
25, I like that.
25 moves on. Liability, insurance.
Can't really change any of that.
Fit.
Test, electricity, all that.
Yeah, flow test, electricity, travel, gasoline. Okay, general sessions, equipment, office equipment.
Human
office equipment,
resources.
Human resources. IT, I think this is what Chad brought to us meeting before last. This is website design, 40,000. Any thoughts?
You think you're wasting money spending it on IT, but
My thing about IT is I'm hearing at all these meetings about how the people are trying to go through local government to feed back up to state government. And they're hounding us to keep our IT up to date.
Well,
say it
you're-
passes, let's pass it.
Well, you're
Keep it.
focusing more on the managed IT,
Yeah, more so.
the second one.
More so than the
Right.
website.
So we'll leave the managed IT for security purposes. Website?
I mean, that's where everybody's going anymore.
I say they both pass tonight, we're trying to get through.
Yeah, let's
Okay, jail, kitchen equipment,
Yeah.
I mean,
medical claims, medical service contract, food,
Can-
clothing supplies.
But with the increase in the kitchen equipment, like I know it's giving it to them, if they don't use it, then we get it back, but if they need it, then we can give it to them. I mean,
Okay, so like scratch that and then.
I mean, maybe a lesser amount, like I think we need to, I don't know, a lesser amount of scratched altogether.
And that's kind of the same thing on EMS. You know, we talked about, third one down in EMS, you know, we had a base increase there, so we can go to a lesser amount, so we can keep that line open, but then if it gets to be a big increase, we can go do a budget amendment. Is that what you're thinking?
Right.
Yeah.
You talking about the other supplies and materials? That's just $3,500.
No, I think he's looking.
He said EMS.
Oh, EMS, oh,
Yeah, sorry.
oh, okay, yes.
Increased general from equipment of 50,000, he's got it at 43. I say we cut, let's that increase base amount for general equipment, let's cut it in half for EMS and,
You're gonna cut it to 20?
21.5.
21,500. And, and increasing the jail from 40,000 to 20,000.
25K, is that right?
21.5 on the first, on the EMS, and 20,000 on the jail. That would raise them to 30,000. Okay, these others down through jail are very baked in.
Yeah,
I think judicial commissioners is office expense, same with juvenile,
yeah.
travel, library carpet replacement, this has been
Asked for.
for several
I
years.
definitely need to do that.
Yeah.
Books and media, I don't think we have.
I think everything through there stays.
I think everything
Office,
stays. Because there's not much other than that.
shelving and chair, travel and other supplies. Okay, Parks and Rec, I don't think there's much
There's
we can do
nothing
there.
I mean, yeah, there's not enough to ask about, I mean, to fight over that, but won't that come out of the increase that's gonna be to Parks and Rec anyway?
It will, yeah. So, I mean, you take that out, you still get 2 cents. I just wanted it on there that's a
Okay.
good point. I just wanted it on there to kind of.
Ben Lomond Fiber, that's my registered deeds as office equipment. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Sheriff's Department, we start with 6 additional vehicles. I believe Chad told us earlier tonight or at the last meeting, that's a Chevy Silverado.
That's what I based it off of, and just
Yeah.
because I did, no.
We
preference
funded
there.
3 last year, and then didn't he buy 2 more out of his own funds last year?
We've had some wrecks that we had to do. He also got, with the SRO grant last year, we got not new cars, we got used vehicles for all the SROs.
I thought the
I don't-
SRO's got a brand new vehicle.
No, they're used.
I've got a problem with getting the trucks and the SUVs. I mean, we got by with cruisers for
Our theory
a
with the,
lifetime. I mean, I don't get it where the county roads are any worse now than they were 20 years ago.
the theory with the pickup trucks is they would be able to stay in-house longer within the highway
They'll
department.
wreck them just the same as they do everything else. They won't never make it to, I get where you're going, bring them down to, central maintenance or highway department. But they won't never make it. I've got a problem with giving them
I wanted to look.
something that expensive that they aren't gonna take care of. They can say, well, things happen. But whenever you got one officer that's, things happens 5 times in a row, something's up.
So the base price for, a Ford Explorer is, on the state contract, is $55,855. And then, so if I was budgeting that,
What about the patrol cars? I mean, isn't there a
Taurus.
there's a Taurus, I don't know if, I don't know if we'd want to go there or not. But
okay.
let me tell you what the difference is with the Explorer, if you don't mind.
The Explorer's probably higher than the pickup.
I thought it was, I had my
It was
sheet.
higher on that sheet that he gave us.
And seeing what we run into lots of times, and I guess that's another question for you guys. You know, last year they told us that they were gonna buy Explorers, that's what we budgeted for, but they had a difficulty getting Explorers in a timely manner, as as timely of a manner as they had wanted, and so they went with Durangos. So I guess how close do we want to hold them to the make? The Durango is actually cheaper than the Explorer. It's $50,976. And the Chevy Silverado that I used was $57,254. So I mean, they're not significantly different between the
The Explorer was
and that.
55 and the Chevrolet pickup truck was 57.
57. The Durango is 51. What makes it so high is all the things that they put on it after the fact. I mean, that's why we're budgeting it at 87.5, because they're doing lights, siren, striping, computer, radar, and dash cam.
What if we knock that down to 125,000 and look at 4 vehicles for next year's budget and see what we can do with them with leftover money from this year?
I mean, I was already in the back of my mind thinking of 3, but I think 4 survives tonight.
So next round,
Did you say pull that to?
4.
Well, the dollar amount, well,
125.
will that be enough for 4?
Well, that's the increase. That's how much the increase would be.
That's true, I'm sorry.
Because 6 vehicles, 87,000.
Yeah, no, I know, yeah. All right, gasoline, we can't, time management system upgrade.
Yeah,
We heard from them on that. Is there any thoughts?
I didn't think it was a have to kind of thing, but
I can't remember much about that, to be honest.
I can't either, but I just remember it not being, I just remember thinking in the back of my mind, that wasn't a have to.
So scratch time management.
Other supplies,
Yeah, I would say scratch time management, but I mean, I'm willing
Other
to.
supplies and materials.
Chad, do you have more about that?
So there are, the software that they have now, my understanding is that it's no longer supported. It can still be used. There are some cheaper options than this, but it doesn't necessarily have all the, different functionalities that maybe they were hoping to transition to. So there are some cheaper options that can at least do what they're doing now anyways.
Okay, so let's scratch that.
other supplies, maintenance and repair, office. Chad, that says dash computers. Is there anything we need to know there?
We've just, where Windows is phasing out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
We heard, add back the academy. That's so they can send to other,
Right, so we have a grant that's available to us to send kids, let's call them kids, I guess they are, but people to the academy.
which is Toledo.
And Toledo, yeah, but it's hard to get in, and so they're wanting to be able to send them to other locations. We used to send people to other places besides Toledo, we weren't paying for it, but.
I say that,
If
And when we
there
moved
needs to
that,
be strings attached to that.
when we moved that money, we moved it into their staff development line, because we did have that line previously, and we moved it into staff development. And so this would just be adding it back, it wouldn't be moving it back out of staff development.
That's something we need to, when we go through our legislative agendas for this year, is to, if they're gonna pay for it, to give them to pay for more, either create a more space at the county they're gonna pay for, or pay somewhere else. That needs to be an ask for us.
Yeah.
I say that it's small potatoes, but the three $10,000 ones for the maintenance, materials, repairs, and, we cut that in half,
Okay.
Okay,
all three of those,
make it 15.
yeah.
Wait, which, you're looking at starting with other supplies,
Other
maintenance and repairs.
In office.
In office.
Yeah.
Well, what all of maintenance and repairs, what would that cover, Chad? What
So-
falls inside?
That is for their repairs to vehicles, so if it's
Okay.
something that they send
Yeah.
out to get repaired that's not sent by central maintenance, if central
Have we
maintenance
been
sends
over
it.
budget this year? Or we're
It has
projected to
been, but that's because we take all of their body shop work out of that line too, so. And I want to change how we do that next year, but that's not anything that would be budgetary wise.
So back to the academy at 7,000, do we,
I say leave that in there.
I say do too.
Verizon Wireless?
I say take that out. If the
Is it-
phones don't pick up internet they have now, because they were saying they wanted jetpacks, we can't get service everywhere in the county. And I know that's something that they were concerned about, and I was like, well, if it doesn't pick up now, it's not gonna pick up with these jetpacks.
Any thoughts?
I'll go with him, I don't know much about it. So scratch
Chad?
it.
I know in the cameras that they're putting in, they have those cradle point routers, and they require the Verizon wireless signal. I don't know, maybe if we could reduce that some instead of not cutting it completely out.
Cut it in half. 3,300
Leave for further research.
for further research.
So let's do
Is that okay, Chad?
Yes.
Travel,
Can't much do about that.
Can't do anything
supplies, uniform, public safety network,
So, no, that's fine.
1,500. Vet services, office equipment, we can't do much there. Waste pickup, it's gasoline fees, and that's the bottom of our,
We didn't cut much.
the bottom of our list.
Ill effective.
All right,
Ki-
$1,200.
well,
$1,200 we got.
Can I ask a quick question, just to
Yes,
follow up?
please.
So in my thought process on back to the salary schedule is I'd put some money in there for, if somebody had like a post-secondary certificate or degree. Is that something that we want to look at, or is that something that we'd rather not venture into at this point? Is that adding another complex layer to something that maybe we shouldn't worry about? And then I don't want to get into where we're insulting somebody, that maybe has a certificate of some type that we wouldn't accept. I don't know, I just kind of wanted some thoughts on that. My goal, my thought process being that we want to encourage education and furtherance of education and stuff like that.
Sure,
but
absolutely.
that I don't want us to get into a situation where it's causing problems.
I would definitely be on board with that. I just don't know if I don't know how we do it. My initial thought was like, for an associate's degree, you get 25 cents an hour more. Maybe a bachelor's degree, you get 50 cents an hour more. I don't know. That was just what came to my head when you were talking about it. Because you don't know what's anywhere. And when you talk about certificates,
I think it's pretty open-ended.
yeah, so I would almost limit it to college degrees or from an accredited college. Then you're looking at it, something, I understand that doesn't necessarily, we could nickel and dime it all the way through, but, my initial thought was, yes, I am very pro-education and pro-doing that, and I think it sends a good message, but I don't know if that's something we can tackle this year or not.
Fair, that's kind of wanted to.
I'm open for it,
So.
but.
I think we need to restructure the commissioner's pay too, but
at 8:30.
not tonight.
Let's talk about that.
Let's do this. Any old business? Any new business? Anyone in the
New
audience
business,
like
I
to
have
address?
permission.
All right, no?
Fantastic.
I have a question.
Come on up, Connie.
How much money do we have in our general fund right now?
Mr. Markham, I'll direct that to you.
At the end of, sorry.
I will say, before he gives you that number, we get paid basically once a year. And, we just got paid, and that's kind of,
Yeah,
We're
and
about to
that's,
start the new-
yeah,
what we got
because-
before we start the new
Yeah.
year.
it gets real lean during the summer months.
yeah.
Sorry.
You should be able to fund for 2 or 3 months. What is it about? What do we need to keep in the,
We try to keep, you want
Rainy
at
day
least
fund.
3 to 6 months of
Expenses,
expenses.
or of labor, and it ain't really all expenses.
Well, yeah, I guess recurring expenses.
Right.
So, I was looking at the report for this month.
While he's looking that up, can I also find out how much we're gonna get from Waste Management whenever we get that October opening?
We should be getting 2 million here in this calendar year. And then in October, we predicted like 650,000 a year. So you prorate that for, if it was October, November, December, it'd be a quarter of that. So 325, 175, probably.
So at the end of April, we estimated 8.7 million in the general fund.
8.7 million?
Mhm.
Okay, we was talking also about the medical expenses and stuff for EMS. Can we not use some of that opioid money for that?
For medical expenses, if it's opioid related.
And can we also not use,
Wait a minute, I don't know, wait a minute. I don't, maybe for opioid training.
I think
No,
it has
what
to, it has
there's-
to tie back directly to the opioid pandemic or prevention of such.
You know,
So like if somebody was having a heart attack, we couldn't use money to buy medication or whatever they would need for that, you know?
it'd have to be, what's, that
Also,
Naloxone.
naloxone or stuff, but
on the Parks and Rec, we're gonna get $50,000 a year. Are we gonna wait till the last minute before we figure out how we're gonna spend it this year?
Well, that $50,000 is not for Parks and Rec. Waste Management will donate $50,000 to a community.
But don't Parks and Rec
Thanks.
have the decision over that?
Nope.
Thought they did.
We did this year.
We did this year, but that's not, they aren't getting it every year.
Okay, gotcha.
That's a yearly thing.
yeah, we put it in Parks and Recs for this year. And it kind of got kicked down the road. We started scrambling at the end. I've already had conversations with them for next year's funding, and they've got, well, I hadn't told about it yet because it hadn't come up. They're looking at some scholarships and stuff for next year.
Okay. Whenever we get our health department built,
Mm-hmm.
are we not gonna be able to sell our other health department in order to generate some revenue?
It would be up to the commission. Yeah, it's something, you know, it'll be ours to dispose of or do whatever.
We need the building.
Right.
We need the storage, we need the office space, I don't see it.
Possible childcare.
I mean, and it is an exceptional building. It's like,
Top of the line.
other than it's small, we really don't need a health department as far as the building wise. I mean, because that building is it's been remodeled and reworked and it's in exceptional shape.
And I also wanted to say, I agree with TK on the cars. We got better roads in this county than we've ever had.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. All right. Gentlemen, care to look at your calendars?
Yes,
We
please.
we gotta get to crunching, don't we?
Yeah, now, I do think Monday night, we have full court, and if I'm not mistaken, the Republican Party's meeting after us to avoid Memorial Day, is that right?
I heard that at the dinner the other night, and I was thinking, ooh, they're meeting when we're meeting.
Yeah, so I think Monday, we have Parks and Rec, full court, and then Republican Party. So I think Monday
Monday
is
works
out.
fine for me.
I mean, we could meet on the second floor in place of, or I'm sorry, while the Republican Party's meeting.
So we're looking at the 19th.
Yeah, but we do have full court, so the earliest we're gonna be able to meet would be 6:30.
We're gonna be here for full court anyway.
No, I'm sorry, that week's not good for me at all.
But the other,
19th through the 22nd.
yeah, the other Tuesday and Thursday are not good for me either.
I'll go ahead and tell you, school board will be voting on their budget on the 27th and the 29th, so I'll be out those nights, and we need to have it for you guys, we need to have a final version for you guys to pass on the 2nd.
Yeah, and the 26th is Memorial Day, so would you have a chance to meet again this week?
How about Friday? I could do Thursday or Friday.
Thursday's the business expo.
Yeah.
Chad, what was that, what did you say? We need to do what by June 2nd?
You need to have a final version passed.
For the committee,
The
for
committee
us.
does.
Jeez.
Ooh, we gonna have to, ooh, that's no time, boys.
We
I could do
could,
Sunday the 18th.
what's the,
We're gonna have to meet at least twice before
what's the public
June
notice
2nd.
for a special call meeting?
5 days, I think.
Why not?
You said June
I was about to say it.
2nd?
They got 2 weeks. I mean,
So the way that this works, so if you pass it on the 16th, unless you guys want to have a special call county commission meeting to pass it,
Now, that,
We can do it.
how much public notice do we need for a special call budget meeting?
I think 5 days.
you can always recess.
Yes,
We may-
it's true.
I mean, can we meet, can everybody meet tomorrow?
I can.
Well, no,
I have an airport meeting.
I've got, my son's graduating college.
That's
yeah, that's not important.
that's a good one.
Well,
and we can recess till Friday. I can do Friday.
I mean, but we gotta meet, I mean, we're gonna have to have at least 2 more meetings, I feel, at least 2 more.
Yeah, I can do Friday.
I can do Friday or Sunday.
What time is it? Business Expo starts at 5:30, right? That's not good for us.
You wanna do Sunday afternoon, the 18th?
How about Friday afternoon?
I can do Friday.
Friday afternoon?
TK, Derek,
Friday the 15th?
16th.
16th,
Or
yeah.
6th, I'm sorry.
What time in the afternoon?
What's the earliest everybody can do?
And I can be here at 9 o'clock in the morning.
We got the bid opens at 3 o'clock, so 3:30 is probably what they'll think, so anytime after that I can do.
Could you be here that early, TK?
I can't.
When?
I think he said around 3:30, I think.
I mean, I can't
That
be
you
here till
can't?
5:30.
5:30?
I can be here whenever. I mean,
We can get here early and start it, I guess, and he's gonna go till 5:30 anyway, so it's not like he's not gonna miss out. Guys, this thing keeps moving.
4:30 then, give us an hour to.
I think it's Derek's the one.
I mean,
I don't wanna-
if I've got a,
We're not gonna cut anybody out on purpose.
I mean, I get it. I mean,
I'm good at 5:30.
I can try to be here before 5:30, but if y'all wanna start at 4:30, I get here when I get here and try to
Okay,
catch up
so,
to speed, that's what it'd be, but
Meet
we
at
gotta have the meeting.
The 16th at 5.
4:30 or 5? Let's do 4:30.
Then we need to go ahead, are we recessing
We
today
are
then?
going to recess.
Well, what about the week, the next week? That's bad for Denny Wayne, but
It's
what about
bad for
every
me too, but we're gonna have to meet.
We
I mean,
got to do something.
All right, so the next week.
is
the
that whole
19th.
week bad for you? Anyway?
Tuesday through Thursday.
And what did we say, Monday night, we couldn't do it?
We just didn't do it Monday night because we're already gonna be here for commission, but it sounds like we're gonna have to.
Let's do after full court, Republican Marty can have this room and we'll go to the second floor.
Sounds good to me.
6:45 on the 19th. Chad,
Mm-hmm.
you guys okay with that?
Yep.
So we got 4:30 on the 16th, 6:45 on the 19th.
Do we need to schedule anything after that?
Let's see how far we go.
So where we go on the 16th?
Well, let's,
I'll make a motion to
schedule
recess.
something.
Yeah.
I'll second
What
that.
was that?
Schedule something, that way, well, we can see where we're at Friday.
Yeah, let's see how far
And
we
then
go.
if things go good Friday, then we can schedule another one, whether we need it or not.
Yeah.
That way we'll have it.
We have a motion on the floor, right?
Motion to recess to Friday at 4:30.
I
And we had
second
a
that motion.
Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are recessed. Is that right? Recessed?
Yes,
We are recessed.
we are recessed.
We are recessed. I don't feel recessed.
It's ready for to eat.